any kind of wins they've had since the last time I've seen you, whether that's in a classroom, working with a student, any of those kind of things. What are some wins that you've had? Because we always need to celebrate those wins. So, and especially if something, was a win that was directly kind of attributed to, your experience here over the last program that we had, and we want to continue that growth. So go ahead, if you have something you'd like to share, what a win was or an aha that you had since we've last met, go ahead and hit that little reaction button on the end, raise that hand up so we can spotlight you and we can celebrate those wins with you, because I know there's been some. Oh, a full moon of quiet. I love that. That's funny. Thanks for that, Sarah. Oh, yeah, the full moon, it can kind of bring that out, right? So, no wins from anybody, no things that you discovered, through what we've shared with principle based design last or 2 weeks ago, I should say, because we did have that extra week. So, oh, Heather, yay. Thank you for that. Let me pull you up here, my dear. Let's see. There we go. And there she is. And if you'll just unmute yourself, my dear.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Glad to be
Good
here.
morning.
My wins have been my terminology. The natural fall has come out of my mouth a lot since this last class. I'm also noticing how many students flip their fingers. So I've been able to guide them in keeping their fingers flat to the floor, parallel to the floor. So just my terminology.
Good. And so what have you noticed with that? Noticing that you're more consistent with your terminology.
Their haircuts are better.
So they're taking that in and they're kind of repeating that information back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
when
the
they're
more you
flipping,
say it,
say again.
the more you say it, the more it kind of ingrains it into their head, right? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So awesome. Everyone, snaps. Thank you for that. That's great. Thank you, Heather. Woo! And anybody else? Amanda, I thought that was you waving your hands that you wanted to speak, and then I see it's just behind you doing the good morning stretch there. That's great. No worries. No worries. All right. Perfect. So, if nothing else, going once, going twice, 3 times, and we're done. All right. Perfect. So, in the chat bar, what was our main focus last week? What did we really, yes, we did a 6-panel Bob, but what was that really about? There was kind of a few things that we really discovered, that we discovered when we were working with that 6-panel Bob. Go ahead and type into the chat. What was the main purpose of that? Finger position versus finger angle. Amazing. Absolutely. Because remember, finger position is how it relates to the head, and finger angle is how it relates to the room, right? Yeah. So good, good, good. Don't cut off the corners. Yes, absolutely. Because those corners give us what? That point of length we need to move and keep the line straight, even though we're working on a curved surface. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Samantha, head shape. It's really about the head shape. That first line, remember, it's the first line that affects everything we do, and we can't control it. But we can change other movements to modify it, right? Yes. Save length for the last, depending on the cut you're doing. Yes, absolutely. Mapping the head corners, raise when dry. Ooh, yeah. Perfect. So how many of you noticed with your 6-panel Bob, because I've seen some of them sitting here, that you really have a nice shape, even when it just dried on its own, And even though you may have seen some corners, you don't necessarily see them. But what we do see is this. How many of you was that like driving you crazy and you just wanted to like, right? Yeah. Thank you for being honest, Jody. Jody's like, oh my God, it took everything within my power of being not to just cut that stuff off. But what it truly is, it's graduation. Everybody mouth graduation. It's graduation because we had what? We had that finger against her neck. So it elevated that hair and created that little bit of graduation. So what we want to do first is I want to show you how you would refine the line, okay, or remove that graduation. It's not a mistake. It's supposed to be there. But what we want to do is experience how do we remove that graduation, because where does it sit in the chat bar? Is that graduation sitting on the top or is it sitting underneath? Is it sitting on the top or is it sitting underneath? Go ahead and type that into the chat bar. Where is that graduation sitting? Up, yep, I see. Up. If you just want to do a U, that's good. That makes total sense to me. Yes, it's underneath. So would you agree that when we refine this line, we need to make sure we preserve the line on the top and just remove the graduation from underneath? Because think about it, once the head came and started to collapse in, we no longer had elevation, right? So it's not sitting on the outside. So we just need to remove it here. So what I'm going to do is everybody just kind of focus right on the screen. I'm going to walk you through how we refine that line, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my mannequin on the stand. I am going to raise her up because I need some good height on her so I can be able to see it. Now, how many of you was it really, really hard not to bend her head down when you were cutting this? Guess what you get to do now? You get to bend her head down, because what we're going to do is we're going to use gravity. And so we're going to bend her head down approximately 45 degrees, a diagonal line. Then what you're going to do is you're going to have your comb and you're going to have your shears ready. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go right down the center back. Let me find her little, let me make sure she's on here actually even so she's not tilted. Okay, I'm going to raise her up just a little bit so you'll be able to see that better. How's that? Is that good? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to part the hair down the center back, right down the center, right at that pivot point sign. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this hair out of the way. I'm going to first start on this left side. Let me turn her just a little bit more and lock her in so you can see that. There we go. Parting that right down the middle. I'm going to push that out of the way. In fact, if I want to, I could literally just really quickly put a clip in it. You know, that's what Beyonce said, right? If you want it, you should have put a clip in it. Okay. Thanks, Jody. I saw you giggle. I appreciate it. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to diagonally comb the hair out of the way from the top. I'm going to take my hand like this so my palm is towards her head. I'm going to place it on her head and push down. And what you will see is that line. Now, look what I'm going to do with my comb. I'm going to put in my finger, and then I'm going to come in with my shear. Now, because the head doesn't, or I should say the skin on the mannequin doesn't give, it can be a little challenging to get your shear under there. So what I do is turn it flat, come in, bring it horizontal, and then clip the hair. And that way we can get rid of all that little one finger's elevation that created that graduation. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to comb it back into shape. I'm going to lift her back up and I'm going to look. And everything looks good except I see one little piece right here. That was right on that edge. So I'm just going to bring her back down, place my hand in again. Remember, hand, everybody put your hand like this, the hand that you don't cut with, and you're going to press that against her neck. Okay, so I'm just going to diagonally comb the hair, pressing the hair down on the bottom, and then just going in and cleaning up the rest of that line. So you may have to do it a couple of times. Now, on a guest, it's very easy because the skin gives. So now you can see we have that beautiful, clean, refined line. All right, now I'm just going to come over to the opposite side. So I'm just going to start on the body. So you can see, now I started on the left because guess what? It's the easier side if you're right-handed, okay? You might want to make a note of that. All right, because you always want to do your easy side first. Now I'm just going to unclip this, remove that out of the way. I'm going to come in, do the same thing, because see, now I'm combing against my body, and now I'm pressing this in, trying to keep my arm out of the way as much as possible so you can see the line. I'm going to bring her back around and actually turn her just so I can do this other side at the same angle. There we go. That's better. So I'm just going to comb this hair diagonally. So see, you're combing away from you, so it seems a little more challenging. So if you're right-handed, that's why that left side is a little bit easier. So I'm going to bring my palm in. I'm going to hold that hair down. I use the pinky finger to hold that clip, or excuse me, to hold the comb out of the way. Then I just cut that line off. Remember, the whole secret here is get that hair from the top out of the way so you're not removing it. You're not disrupting your line. And now I have a beautiful, clean, refined line. Cool. All right, awesome. So what I want you to do, go ahead and get your 6-panel bob, position her right in the screen, just like I had it. So if you're right-handed, you're probably going to want to be standing on the left side of her. If you're left-handed, stand on the right. Adjust it that way. Part down the middle, diagonally comb the hair forward and press your hand on the neck to see where that line of graduation comes out. And then just remove that small line of the graduation. Remove that small line of the graduation. And again, don't be greedy. You might want to take it in a couple of attempts. You don't necessarily want to have to get it all at once because again, the skin isn't going to be giving here. Remember, the secret here is first tilt that head down. So you're using gravity to help push that hair out of the way. And you're combing the hair diagonally forward to remove the outside or the top of the hair out of the way so you're not disrupting your beautiful line that you created throughout the shape. Perfect. Nice, Dondi. Good tilt on that head. Just open up that palm. Remember, you're just really having to press on her head. Sarah, that looks great. Yep, just cleaning up those few little pieces that are coming from your graduation. Awesome. Ryan, if you could change your device so I can see you across the screen. You're in portrait mode right now. Thank you so much. All right. Nice. Looking good. All right, Sarah, done a great job there. Nice hand position, Heather. Very good. Yeah, pull your hand as far down on her neck. So, yep, you're just good job, Elizabeth. You're just exposing that line that you want to see. Perfect. Awesome. Now, remember, if it's hard to get those shears, excuse me, turn them flat against the skin. And then when you come under the hair, bring them up horizontal and you'll be able to grasp that hair just a little bit better. Looking good, Vanessa. Great hand position. Now, remember, you'd always want to do this dry if you ever do take design certification, which we hope you do, that you would actually have to do this wet. So you'd still do the same process. It would actually just be damp at this point. We recommend in the salon you do it dry. And remember, when you do dry this, we're going to do like a flat wrap dry. We're not going to use a round brush underneath because that will hide that graduation. And then our guests would be calling us back in a few days with those long pieces that are hanging out from underneath. So remember to always comb that hair diagonally forward. Sarah looks great. Nikki looking good. Oh yeah, Carolina, that line looks good. Yep, if you have smaller hands, you might find it a little bit of a challenge. Now, the secret is here to get used to if you're putting your comb down, try to use your pinky, but what you'll have to do is extend the length of the comb up on the head. So you've just got the little bit of comb in between your pinky and your ring finger to secure that. That way you're not putting your tool down in between. It takes a little practice, absolutely, to feel comfortable with it, but it does work and it makes it easier where you're not having to pick that comb back up after you set it down. Beautiful. Nice job, everyone. Ryan, that looks great. Thank you so much. Good. So take about 1 more minute. Remember, you're just looking for that line to be cleaned up of that graduation. It may be flipping a little bit because, of course, we didn't blow dry. It just depends on how well it dried, and if you had it combed really, really smooth. Hair texture makes a lot of difference, of course. Nice. Yep, Dondi, that looks really good. Look at that silhouette in the screen. That looks nice. All right, perfect. Once you finish with that, you can pop her off that stand. Go ahead and pop your long one on there, and you can put that off to the side as well, because we're going to be going through a little bit of theory and some digital flip charts before we get into our next cutting exercise. We're actually going to do 2 full cutting exercises today, so it's going to be busy. You'll see now what we're going to do is we're going to start incorporating the theory as you're experiencing it. Okay. So when we talked about principles of shape and that kind of thing, that was kind of the basis. But what we're going to do now, and you'll see that I'll switch it up a little bit when we start talking about, say, like over direction. We're not going to talk about all 3 different types. We're only going to talk about the one that's relevant at that moment. So that way you're not having to try to go back and remember later. So we'll just talk about it right when we use it. Sound good? Perfect. All right. So everybody you can put your mannequins off to the side. I'll give you a chance and an opportunity to section those when it comes time. So just get out whatever you're taking notes with at this point. And let me get my screen up here for you and make sure that everything looks good. Oh, now it's saying, do you trust this computer? Hold on 1 second. That's too funny. Let's try this one more time. It's in there. Why is it not coming up? It came up before. Ah, all right. Can everybody see it now? Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. I see your head bobbing up and down. I appreciate that very much. Perfect. So let's continue on with our principle-based design. So last time we met, it was all about keeping the head upright, keeping the hair in its natural fall position. But what happens when we start moving the hair around or start putting movement into the hair? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the principles of movement. Now, there's 3 of them, right? So let's talk about those 3 principles of movement. So what is our first one? Our first one is, of course, elevation. Think about that word, elevation. It's kind of like an elevator. So that's going to kind of give you a little heads up on what that's going to look like, right? So 6-panel bob is all about keeping hair in its natural fall position. It's NFP, using our finger position parallel to the bevel. Yeah, good. So what happens if we take it out of natural fall position? Yeah, then all of a sudden, what do we call that? Over direction. Okay, we talk about over direction, taking hair out of its natural fall position. And we'll break these down just a little bit more as well. And then, of course, the third line of the design is what? Enclosing that shape. It could be your fingers, right? Could be maybe if you're doing clipper over comb, it could be a clipper or a comb angle, right? But it's how we enclose that space. And that's that last one. And we talk about it. And it's a what? It's a finger angle. It's a finger angle. So those are our 3 movements within hair design. All right, so let's talk about elevation, okay? Now, in the chat bar, do me a favor. What kind of movement is elevation? What kind of movement is elevation? You can just use initials if you want as well. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. It is an up and down movement. It's an up and it's a down movement. It's an up and it's a down movement, okay? So up and down, right? It's going to start taking hair, and what does it create? What do we create when we elevate the hair and cut it? We already found it when we elevated with that one finger. What was that? What did we call it? Yep, graduation. Now, let's go back and talk about a little bit of our own personal experiences, right, and our own history. And that graduation, I know depending on the school that you went to, some people talk about graduation and then some people talk about layers. If that's kind of the world you came from where you talked about graduation and layers differently, give me a Y in the chat bar. Give me a Y in the chat bar if you came from that tribe or that group where that was part of your training. Right, and sometimes that was graduation if it sits below the occipital bone, it's layers if you sit above the occipital bone. That's usually the premise. Here, we're just going to talk about graduation, which means we're putting steps in the hair. Doesn't matter where it sits, whether it sits on the top, sits on the bottom, it's just graduation or layers. You know, we're going to try to use a general term to describe the overall effect, all right? Perfect. Thank you for that. And the last thing we want to talk about when we talk about graduation is what? What is this? A little pair of eyeglasses, right? And eyeglasses help us see. So what I want you to think about is how would you see elevation? Now, I'm going to ask you a question first. Get your fingers ready in that chat bar. What's the most misused tool in the salon? I think we already talked about it last week. What was it? Anybody remember? Yep, the mirror. So what views would you look at in the mirror to see your elevation? Because remember, if I'm consistent with my elevation, then my graduation is going to be consistent, right? So what views would you be able to see elevation? Think about it. If you had a guest that was sitting with the front view and we elevated it, would you be able to see the degree of elevation? Yeah, absolutely. I see somebody else put profile sides. Yes, absolutely. Because if we turn our guest to the side and we were working on the back of the head, we would be able to see the degree of the up and down movement, right? Yeah, absolutely. So we can see it from the front, we could see it from the sides. And what about the back? Yeah, because if I was working on the sides, I could also see it from the back view. So sometimes, you know, depending, maybe your space in your salon is smaller, you may need to turn that client so you can get that side view where the back of their head is towards the mirror. And remember, we're doing that for our consistency. So we build a better shape. We build that DNA into the shape. So again, how do we see it? We see it from the front, the sides. You could also put profile if you like. And we can also see it from the back of the head. So 3 views we can see it: front, sides, and back. Think about it. If we were looking down from the top, we could tell that we were elevating the hair, but we really couldn't see the degree of it, could we? No. So that way that top view is not going to be important at that point. All right, so that was the first movement, right? What was the second one? Over direction. Now, in the chat bar, once again, what kind of movement is over direction? What kind of movement is over direction? Yes, awesome. Yes, 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 yes. So here we have a side to side type of movement. So we're taking hair out of its natural fall position. Oh, I actually got that to work and make those arrows. And a side to side movement. So we're taking hair out of its natural fall position and creating over direction. So when we take hair and move it side to side out of its natural fall position, what happens? Let's say this. What if I took everything from the front and over directed it to the back? What's my end result? I'm going to have more what in the front? Yeah, we're going to have a lot of length, and we're going to have also what? A lot of weight. Yeah, so all of a sudden now what we're going to have is we're going to have length and weight. And think about that. Where is it going to be? If I over direct it to the back, it would be in the front. So think about like this graduated A-line kind of bob, right? Yeah. But now what would be different if I turned and I over directed everything to the front? Now all the weight and length is in the back. And now instead of a graduated A-line bob, we've created the wolf cut. It's the same haircut. One's just over directed all to the back. The other one's just all directed to the front. So think about it. The bob comes to a point where? In the center front. The wolf cut comes to a point in the center back. So you're getting length and weight opposite the cutting position. Opposite the cutting position. Now, remember that last question we're going to ask you is, of course, how are we going to see it? So we use the mirror to see the profile, the sides, the front, and the back view with our elevation. But think about this. When we did our 6-panel bob, and get ready in the chat bar with this answer. When we did our 6-panel bob, what view did we look at to make sure our finger position was parallel to the bevel? Because remember, that kept the hair in natural fall. So what view were we using? Good, the top view. So that's how we're going to view this. We're always going to look from the top to see our view of our over direction. So we'll be able to see where we're over directing the hair to. Now, here's the great thing. If you remember back to that vertical breakdown, we found out where the head had major changes of direction. Yes? Yeah. And what do we call those? Points of reference, POR. Now, those points of reference are going to be vital when it comes to over direction if you want consistency and balance. And remember, we talked about with the head form, right? If we understand consistency and balance and the head form, we're going to get better results, right? Yeah, absolutely. So we're always going to look down from that top view to see that over direction. Now, let's look at over direction. And let's look at how that equates to an end result so we can all have a visual of what we're creating. So let's talk about this. Stationary guide. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You don't move, the hair doesn't move, or the hair all comes to you, right? So we have one consistent point of over direction, right? One consistent point of over direction. So one, let's change that color. Okay. So if you look at the diagram here, what are you seeing? That everything's been over directed to the center back. So that means that I'm going to have the most graduation, the most layers or graduation in the center where the hair was combed to and cut. But then see, all the other hair is having to travel further, right? So look what happens to the graduation. It goes from a lot to a little, and it happens really quick. Okay, so what we like to say is this narrows, sorry about that, go back. This narrows the width of the graduation. It narrows, and when I say narrow, what I want you to think about is look what's happening to this triangle. It's going from wide to narrow on both sides, yes? So see, it narrows the width of graduation. That's why if you pull everything to the back, when you get to the front, do you have any layers? Yes or no? Or is it just really, really heavy? It looks almost like dog ears, right? Yeah, absolutely. So that's why, because see, you've got all the layers in the back, but all that weight and that length is being projected to the front. So we get what we like to call is the maximum amount of over direction. You can't get any more than that. Now, remember, we used a point of reference as what? The center back. Remember, I could have also used the center front. I could have over-directed everything from the right side to the top of the ear on the left side if I wanted, right? And then how is that triangle going to sit? It's going to sit on the side of the head where there's lots of layers, and then it gets longer on from the front to the back and from the side to the back, other side as well. So see, again, that's creativity. But the principle allows you to have control over that creativity. If you're good, give me a thumbs up. Perfect. So see, that's why that vertical breakdown is so vital, because it helps you see where the head changes direction so we can be more consistent in our other movements. And that's what's important. So now the last thing, of course, over direction was taking the hair out of its natural fall on a side to side. And the last thing, of course, was our finger angle, right? And I've already given you the answer, but think about it. If you're looking from that side profile, right, our fingers are moving in towards the head and out at the bottom, or they're moving out at the top and in towards the bottom. So what's going to be different? If my fingers are here, where's all the hair? Is it on the top or the bottom? And you can just type a T or a B. My finger angle is here. Where is all the hair? Where's the most hair? Yeah, absolutely. It's on the top. All right. So you could say length, but what we like to think about is that it's the placement. Let me go back here. Sorry about that. It gives you the placement of volume, gives you the placement of volume. And remember, what did we say it was? It's an in and out movement. So if we look at it here, let's do this. So there's our elevation, straight out at 90. Oh, let's take that back. Let's put our finger angle in here to connect the two together. So now we can see, where would the placement of volume be here? It would be where? On the top. So that's where the most hair, the most volume. So a lot of times I know we get confused with that, because when guests talk about volume, do they really mean volume, or are they talking about height? So don't let terminology confuse you. It's all about understanding what the guest is looking for, not necessarily teaching them that we call it volume. You know, that's for us knowing that we're going to think about like a swimming pool. So my fingers are here, all of the volume of the pool is at the top. But if my fingers were here, it's at the bottom, right? So that's the deep end, because it gets really, really heavy down there. So remember, now think about this. How would we see it? Say our guest is facing front view. Would you be able to see the degree of the finger angle? In the chat bar, Y or N, from front, would you be able to see the degree? So if this was my finger angle, would you be able to see it from the front view? Yeah, absolutely. Great. All right, so now we're going to go to a side profile. Would you be able to see the degree of the finger angle from the side profile? Well, I was working on the back. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So then what about if let me spin around here, and now I'm on the back profile or the back view. Could I see it? Absolutely. So I could see it from the front, the sides, and the back. Now, can you see it from the top? Can you see finger angle from the top? Yes or no? I'm going to go ahead and write that in while I'm waiting for your response. Can you see finger angle from the top? So we can see it from front, side, and back. Now let me look what your responses were. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of N's. Okay, so let me ask you this. Where's my little, oh, okay. Here he is. I have this little man right here. Everybody see him? Okay, this is Velcro Man. So what if I was looking at the top view and I was cutting vertically? You're right, I can't see the finger angle, right? But now what if I was cutting horizontally and I elevated the hair? Would I now be able to see the finger angle? In the chat bar, Y or N? Would you be able to see if I was cutting horizontally? Absolutely, but I can't see it from the top view if I'm cutting vertically. I know I have one, but I can't see it. So what we do is we have to clarify that we see the front, sides, and the back if I'm cutting vertically. If I'm cutting horizontally, I'm going to always see my finger angle from the top. So say I was doing a graduated bob and I was doing it horizontally because I wanted to look really thick and wide and weighty, because we know horizontal cutting lines build width, right? I would look at that finger angle from the top. So I wouldn't necessarily have to over direct. If you think about it, I wouldn't necessarily have to over direct if I wanted the hair to get longer in the front, would I? All I'd have to do is what? Change my finger angle and I could create more length towards the front. So see, that way you could get length without necessarily the weight. So that way you don't have all the weight of the over direction. So see, just by modifying one of the movements, you modify the overall appearance, the silhouette of that shape, right? Yeah, absolutely. So those are those movements of hair cutting, okay? So what I want you to do is take about a minute, look back over your notes. I'm going to turn on just a little bit of music. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about what we just talked about with those movements and any kind of discoveries or ahas that you may have had. So any discoveries or ahas that you may have had, and be ready to share those with your team. And press pause. Perfect. Discoveries, who wants to share? Anybody? Ahas. Now think about that over direction too. What kind of shape was that in the back? It was a triangle, yes? And what do we talk about a triangle? Those diagonal lines. Do those create symmetrical or asymmetrical shapes? Triangles. Asymmetrical, right? Yeah, because they go from wide to narrow. So see, asymmetry doesn't mean necessarily shorter on one side and longer on the other. It just means that we're narrowing that width of graduation. So see, there's a key visual right there. So if you see that happening in a shape, whether the layers are going, longer towards the back, maybe they're getting longer towards the front, it kind of tells you right there, I've got to use some type of over direction to create that kind of narrowing of the graduation. So see, understanding the movements helps you visualize the end result. So what happens? A guest brings in the picture and you look at it and say, oh yeah, I can see that. That's the maximum amount of over direction. So I'm going to use a stationary guide. Maybe it's just to the top of the ear and there's no over direction in the back. But again, you get to have that creative freedom because you have points of reference to guide you. Remember, that's your GPS. It shows you where you can turn, or if you want to change something, then you know exactly where to change it on the opposite side if you're looking for balance. And balance is just a fancy way of saying even, right? Yeah, it's just a really nice way of saying even. So, we want to keep everything balanced and consistent. I don't like to use the word even necessarily because, again, head shapes can be different on each side. Hair may not be the same length even, but it may visually look balanced when you get done. And that's what's truly important. And we learn that with the bob, right? It's learning to trust your vision and see the silhouette being created, and trust the process as we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to get right into our next workshop. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you just about 5 minutes. So if you do need to run to the restroom, you can do that as well. But what I'd like you to do is you are going to take that longer mannequin head and you are going to section her into 4 lovely quadrants. Remember, this is just like the 6-panel bob. So you want to make sure that you're positioning those partings from the center front to the center back, remembering combing the hair in the direction you want, keeping your comb flat and drawing the line in, and then going from the high point. And how do we find that high point? We're going to place that comb on the top of the head. And remember, you want to do this every single time you're doing any kind of demo, because remember, if you take a shortcut, your students are going to take that shortcut as well. They're going to do exactly what you do and less of it. So you always want to exemplify that. So let me see that comb on the top of the head, separating it to the top of the ear. And notice again, just like with the 6-panel, the clips are vertically going up, securing the hair at a very low elevation. Make sure the hair is nice and saturated. Again, I'm going to give you 5 minutes so you have plenty of time to get that done. You need to use the restroom, do that as well. Just remember, listen for the song Espresso, and you'll know that it's time to come back. So 5 minutes, we'll see you then. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Welcome back. So we're going to get right into it. So again, this is going to be a see-do segment. We're going to go ahead. You're going to watch me and take any kind of notes, and then we'll go over it again. And then we'll send you off to do that in a certain amount of time. So make sure you have your notepads ready. I'm going to get my mannequin head here and get her right in. Now we are going to be elevating the head. So again, you're going to want to make sure that that head is low enough for the elevation. What we usually find is if the top of the guest's head is in the middle of your chest, that's usually a pretty good height for that guest. So I'm just going to bring this. Let me see if I can lower this down just a little bit, make it a little bit better. There we go. Perfect. So my head is in the upright position. I'm going to just need my shears and a comb. Now, the first thing, of course, we have to do is a guideline. Now, our guest has already gone through her consultation. She's looking for some graduation, some layers. She really wants to maintain the majority of her length. She loves layers, but what she doesn't want them to look is choppy. Who's ever heard that one? Give me a wave. I don't want choppy layers. Okay. So choppy means straight lines. Choppy means straight lines because how do straight lines look to the eye? Hard, right? But curved lines looked soft. So we want to make sure we're using a curved line to create it. So with all those things and the parameter, and the other thing is she said she's not really crazy about like the shag looks that goes on right now because she thinks the ends look a little thin. So she doesn't want that kind of look. She wants something more, think like that bombshell blowout, lots of volume, lots of, big hair. So what we're going to do is, she gave us those parameters that she wants the hair to be long enough to pull back. We've never heard that one before, right? That she's got to be able to pull it back. Yeah, I know. Sarah's like, yeah, we've never heard that one before. So what we want to remember was when we create a guideline, we need to think about not where the natural fall is, but where is that hair going to live when they dry it? Where's going to be the natural living position, if you think about it that way? And we know she probably isn't going to wear her hair in front of the eye, right? She's going to pull it around the corner of her eye. So I'm going to pull that hair right to that point of reference. And you notice it has enough dampness to it, enough moisture, that it's going to stay right where I put it. Now, this is going to give me a great visual because now I can see where the hair lives. And what I want to do is I want to start the graduation right at the bottom of her jawline. So I don't necessarily want to cut just a blunt line because it'll be really hard. So I'm going to pinch it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut straight down with my shear to cut that guideline. So it's already put a little bit of softness in that. Right, so there's the first hot tip. So the first hot tip is we're going to position the guideline. We're working on a center part at the point of reference at the front corner of the eye. And then we're going to cut that length just right at the jaw line. All right, so that's going to be my guideline. Now watch this. We're going to take our guideline and we're going to move it out of the way. Because when I pick up my first section, that guideline is so small, I will not see it. All right, heads up right. We're going to take diagonal partings. Now, we're only taking diagonal partings for control. Make sure you write that down. It has no end result of the graduation, okay? Because remember, the graduation is a result of the elevation, right? The over direction and the finger angle. That's what's going to give us the silhouette. So I'm simply going to go approximately an inch back, almost think of her fringe, taking a small triangle. Now, what I'm going to recommend when you first try this and you first experience this, take your comb, put it in, and comb the hair straight up towards the ceiling, straight up vertically. So you see the roots coming straight up, right? Now I'm going to bring my body over to the position on the side of the head. I'm going to take my comb and I'm going to keep my comb horizontal. And I'm going to bring the hair towards me. So I want you to look at the root of the hair. It is not moving forward. It is not moving back. It is coming straight up. We're elevating, we're elevating, we're elevating, we're elevating. We're elevating, we're elevating, we're elevating. Because remember, it's just an up and down movement. So now I'm going to use the fine teeth of my comb for tension. I'm going to go ahead and put my comb on a 45 because she wants to maintain her length. So that's going to give me volume placement in the... Ooh, in fact, here's a good chat bar question. If my finger angle is 45 degrees, and you notice it's going from the front to the back, so the diagonal is opening up towards the back, where's the volume? F in the front or B in the back? Is it F in the front or B in the back? Yes, absolutely. So more volume in the back, more length in the back, right? So that's going to maintain her hair. So I'm going to elevate the hair straight up. I'm going to bring it over. As I come over, I'm going to come underneath to bring that hair smooth. Now watch. I've got my comb in. I'm going to put my diagonal. Now I'm going to pick up the guideline. So now I can see it. If you notice, my finger position is horizontal. My finger angle is diagonal, volume in the back. So we are cutting horizontally. So that means it's going to build weight. All right. So we elevate. Let's do that one more time. We come straight up, straight up. So notice, I do not put my comb in on the part, because if I do, watch what I want to do. I've just now over directed the hair forward. Yes. So do not match the part with your comb. Keep your comb horizontal. Bring the hair towards you. Position your finger angle. Now pick up your guideline and come to your guide. So my hand, look, everything's up, elbows up. Cut the hair. So when I get finished, you'll see there's that diagonal line. But now when I bring it back, watch what happens, because the diagonal line gives me what? The graduation going from short to, oop, wait, you can't see it. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Up, there we go. So now you can see it gets longer because our finger angle placed more volume towards the back. Good. All right, so now I'm going to take my next diagonal parting. I'm going to take this section of the hair just for control to keep it super clean. I'm going to turn the mannequin. Excuse me. Excuse me again. I'm going to turn the mannequin to the side view so you can see me combing the hair. All right. So I'm still standing on the side. Again, notice I'm not putting the comb in on the part. I'm keeping the comb horizontal. So I'm combing the hair straight up, straight up, straight up. Does everybody see how that's coming straight up towards the ceiling? Yep, good. Perfect. So now I'm coming straight up. I'm going to cross over the vertical line, still keeping my comb horizontal. I've got my guideline. My finger position is horizontal. I'll bring her back to the front view so you can see. We'll comb through one more time, combing straight up, combing straight up, combing straight up. Now as I come over, now I'm going to put my comb underneath, bring my hair over. There's my 45. Notice I went to the finger angle before I got to the ends. So there's my guideline. I'm going to lose tension, so I'm going to remove some of the hair and just recomb the hair. So see, I'm really making sure. I want you to comb a lot and cut once. Finger position horizontal, finger angle diagonal, volume in the back. Next section. Again, see, we're just taking these diagonal sections for control. Now see, I don't have to pick up all of the hair that I've cut because I just need enough for my guideline. So I'm going to bring the hair straight up and over, straight up and over, straight up and over. Really getting that root of the hair smooth. Bringing my comb underneath, fingers behind, 45-degree finger angle coming out to my guideline. There it is. Removing the hair I don't need. Finger position. So notice my fingers stay horizontal. If I start dropping my elbow, do you see how my hand actually changes? So if I keep that elbow up, it helps my hand stay horizontal. Now, this is going to be my very last section. I'm just going to bring the rest of this hair over. So again, I want you to look from the side. You'll have a tendency to want to follow the round, but see, we're going to come straight up. Straight up. So see, I would have my guest positioned facing front profile, front view in the mirror. Bringing this hair all over. Comb from underneath, fingers in front of the comb, 45-degree finger angle. And there's the rest of the hair. So you see very little hair is coming off. Now, here's the beautiful thing. You can see all the hair coming straight up. So now when I bring it back to where she's going to wear it, Do you see we get a beautiful natural framing all the way around the face? See, there's your finger angle, short to long, but see, it's keeping that density at the ends. Now, here's the beauty. Watch the line that we created when I pick this up. If I pick this up from the top and look at the line that I created, let me get this. I'm going to move it in really, really close. You can see literally the line is curved. Okay, let me, there. So you can see the line is literally curved. So what you're doing is you're actually mimicking her head shape, the round curve of her head, because the elevation creates the hair laying on the curve of the head. So it automatically makes it go in a natural kind of rounded shape. So by creating that curved line that goes out, oh my God, wait a minute. That looks just like the sleeve of the t-shirt. Oh, so look, we've already created the bottom of the t-shirt with our bob, right? Now I just created the sleeve of the t-shirt. You see, now all we're doing is recreating lines and we can create any shape we want. So now we know if we want to create a curved line that goes out like this, we have to elevate and let the hair layer wrap on top of the head. And then we choose whatever finger angle depending on where we want the volume. So let's review our steps for the shape. So we'll bring her back. All right. Who wants to volunteer to give me step number 1? Give me a little hand raise. I'm going to pull you up to give me step number 1. We've already got it sectioned to our 4 quads. What's our first step? Give me a little hand wave and I'm going to bring you up and you can tell me what that first step is. Come on, everybody to go. Okay, Heather, I see you first. Somebody get ready for step 2. Boom. All right, girl. What do we do first?
We cut the guide.
Okay, now give me a little bit more because remember, I'm a student and I have never done anything before, okay? So remember, everybody repeat after me, even if you're just doing it to yourself. Teach to the blind.
Each to the blind.
Okay, so in other words, I don't know anything. Okay, so when you say cut the guide, I'm like, what?
So
Just
we're
like,
going to take a small section from the front fringe area
okay,
and create our guide at the jawline.
okay, so I'm just
And
gonna
it's
pull,
natural fall.
so I'm just gonna pull it down and cut it right there.
No, and it's natural fall.
Okay, so is that its natural fall or is that where it's gonna live?
That's not, no, it's going to be where it lives.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
Correct.
this
Yes.
would be natural
Where is
fall.
the hair going to live?
Yeah. So in other words, so if you were going to teach this using our principle-based design terms, we would move the hair to the what? What do we call this right here at the corner of the eye? It's a point
Point
of,
of reference.
right. So we would say we're going to move the hair to the point of reference at the left front corner. The more you can keep saying those words, it'll reinforce, okay? So the left front corner, then you're right. We are going to cut that guideline at the jaw. Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you.
Give snaps for Heather for throwing herself out there. Woo! That's how we have the best learning when you put yourself out there. Just remember that. Thank you for that. All right, perfect. Step 2, we've cut the guideline. Who wants to go step 2? Who wants to be the brave soul? Step 2, Elizabeth. I saw you. Here you come. Boom. All right, what's step 2? Hold on, I can't hear you, hun. You're still muted. There you go.
Step 2 is setting that small piece of the guide aside because it's too small of a section to be able to use it the way it is. And it is taking a small section or a small triangle in that front area and then combing it up. We're not trying to follow the natural curve. We're trying to go up and down because that's what it's going to give us what we need. And we're going to lift it all the way over. And then we're going to have a horizontal finger position. And then we're going to have it at an angle so that the volume comes from the back. And then we're going to take that small piece in the front and use it as our guide.
Oh, girls paying attention. Snaps, Elizabeth. Awesome. Now, can we add one thing? As we making sure, and I love that you said don't follow the curve of the head. Yeah. Comb that hair straight up, and you're right. You're just up and down. I love how you said that. We're just elevating up and down. You are perfect. And then the only thing I want you to remember is once we get that hair over to the other side, what are we going to do with that comb? We're not going to come from the top anymore. We're going to come from what?
The middle.
But we're going to put the comb underneath the section, remember? And
Oh, yeah.
okay, so
Sorry.
once we get that hair elevated up, which you were perfect, and we get it over, now we're going to put the comb underneath, fine teeth, fingers in front of the comb, then put in your finger angle, and you were exactly right. You're going to bring it back to your guide and then cut your guideline, placing volume in the back. And here's what I want everybody to learn. And first of all, everyone give snaps for Elizabeth. That was amazing. Thank you. What I want you to remember is what I loved about that was she really, really utilized the verbiage. The more you utilize the verbiage, the more it's going to beat into their head. And then when they get on the floor, you can ask them, hey, what are you doing? And they'll be able to say, oh, I'm going to take a diagonal parting. I'm going to elevate it, blah, blah, blah. You know, so that way it's reinforcing it. So the more you can say it while you're teaching, the more it's going to reinforce to them, and they're going to be able to share that information with others as well. Awesome. All right, so then we took that first section, we cut it. All right, then what do? We take our next diagonal parting. Remember, all the diagonal partings are not going to necessarily be the same diagonal. You control the hair and how much you can handle, okay? So remember, the diagonal partings are just for control. All right, so what I'm going to do, give me 1 second. I'm going to set up our 2 breakout rooms. We're going to create them. All right, so what I'm going to do is, remember, in just a second, it's going to come up. You're going to accept the invitation to go into your breakout room. Remember, position your mannequin with the front of the mannequin facing the screen so I can see the mannequin and your elevation. And then you're going to work, and you're just going to work in the front left panel, okay? Just the front left. We're not going to do the back or the other side, just the front left. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you 8 minutes to create that curved line in the graduation that goes out. All right, so remember, once the timer comes up that you have 1 minute left, you don't have to do anything. It will bring you back. If your group gets finished early, talk about what you've learned. Share your experiences as you go. All right, here they come. Accept that invitation and off you go. All right, welcome back. All right, who has so I know I was in one of the rooms and I thought a great point came up. I don't remember who shared it, but they were talking about combing underneath once the hair crossed over. Oh, that was Hillary. Hillary, can I spotlight you, because I thought that was huge, and I think that's a great learning that everybody can really, really benefit from.
So I was just saying in my group that when I was a student at T-Spa, when we learned this cutting method, like it was like when we did the swelling, a lot of the times we would just comb on top. And obviously from the other side, you would get like little bits that would be like caught from the opposite quadrant of where you're currently working in. And so that would get caught. So the whole like combing underneath really does prevent that. And I thought that was a really good like safety rail kind of guard situation, so you don't have that happen, because it can go awry very quickly.
Absolutely, because if you pick up hair from the opposite side and cut it, you're in straight graduation. You get a really hard line that's really hard to get rid of. So
Yes.
yeah. So Hillary, awesome, great learning. Snaps for you. Thanks for sharing. All right, perfect. Anybody else want to share any kind of like ahas? Because remember, how many of you just learned from that she said that, you know? And it really does. It really kind of keeps you from trying to pick up that hair you're not trying to work on. So again, I love how you said it's kind of like that little safety rail, you know, almost like a training wheel, you know, per se, you know, but then don't get lazy and forget to do it, because then again, once we become lazy, that's when uh-ohs and, you know, unexpected outcomes start happening, right? Right. Okay, perfect. So let's just go in real quick, and I'm going to go in and share my screen with you, and let's just kind of review here really quickly. All right, so Hillary gave it away, and there it comes. So of course we are right now, like she said, in swelling graduation, okay? So if you notice, we took our first section, we elevated that hair vertically past 90, elevated it to 90 degrees on the opposite side. Remember, we took those diagonal partings. Now, diagonal partings, they didn't create the curved line, did they? No. They just help us control the sectioning. You could take horizontal partings if you wanted, but that's going to be a lot of hair from front to back, isn't it? And it's really hard to get a clean line. So hence why we take the diagonal partings. They're smaller bite-sized pieces. And then you can see from the diagram that we have literally finished out that front quadrant in, say, what, 4 or 5 sections, right? And you get a beautiful face frame as a result. Now, we're going to continue on and we're going to move into the back. And we're going to show this first. And we're going to talk about all those words that we're going to be using. And when you do this next back quadrant, I want you to practice those words in when you're doing it. So just actually teach yourself. So we talked about this. We talked about our elevation, and our elevation was 90 degrees horizontal in swelling graduation. So see, that tells us that it has to be elevated to the opposite side of the head. Now, just by either a yes or no in the screen with your head, was there any over direction? No, because we were bringing that hair straight up towards the city. We were not moving it in a side to side motion. You are correct. There is no over direction. And what was our finger angle? It was 45 degrees. And remember, we need to say, where are we going to place the volume? It was in the back. And then last but not least, well, wait a minute. Let's do this. We'll go back since it's on here. The volume is going to be placed in the back. And remember, what was that last thing? What was our finger position? It was horizontal. And remember, to keep that finger position horizontal, keep those elbows up. The more your elbows are up, the more your hands are going to stay horizontal as you're working, and you're going to be more consistent. So we're going to move into the back. I'm going to let you look at the diagram first and talk about it. Then I'm going to show you, because there's a key element here of where the hair needs to be when you cut it. Because you see, if we're looking at the visual, you see how the line continues from front to back, yes? Right. But if I just continue the same type of sectioning and comb that hair from that back quadrant to continue the line, would you agree the root would be over-directed? We would be combing it in a side-to-side motion, because the hair first needs to come straight up, but then that's not where it's going to live. So if you think about it, so see, we'd be bringing the hair, what, straight up this way, because that's natural fall, correct? But then the hair needs to come here, because that's where we're going to continue the line. So it's going to take, it's very similar to when we did the 610. What did we do? We put the root first in its natural fall, right? And then what do? We shifted the length to where we needed to cut it. So you'll see the movement is going to be very much the same. And your body's going to have to move during that process. So I want everybody to really, really zone in on your screens. If you want to do a video of this while I'm doing it, feel free to absolutely do a video of it while I'm doing it, because I want you to be very, very comfortable. And I'll keep showing you from the top view as well, so you can see what that's going to look like when you're doing it. So let's get positioned here. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the moisture content or the hair is well hydrated. So I'm just going to spray that down. Now, the only thing I need is a small guideline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very small little triangle right from the back of the quarter panel that we were working on. So right near the high point of the head. Okay, again, some of you may know it as the apex. There's my guide. I'm going to keep that out. Now, just like we said before, we're trying to protect this hair. We do not need to cut it again. So what I'm going to do is all of this hair is simply going to be combed down. And I'm going to take my sectioning clip, just like before, and come straight up from underneath. So now all I have is my back quarter panel.
Angela, can you mute yourself? Because it keeps going to your screen and we can't see Brian.
Here, let me see, or I can do it. Good. All right, perfect. So if you're looking, you're now looking at the back view of the head. So what I'm going to be doing is taking horizontal partings. That's going to be the easiest for me to control the hair. Now, what's really cool, if you look horizontal on the back, becomes what on the sides? Diagonal. So you see it fits right in to that section. So my first section, I'm just going to take a tiny little triangle, comb the rest of the hair down. Don't need it. So there's my first section. All right. So now I'm going to turn the head to the front. Head up right for me, dear. Perfect. All right. So now I'm going to stand my left foot, because I'm right-handed, is going to be locked at the top of the ear. I'm going to shift my body to the corner of the eye to comb the hair into its natural fall. So see, I'm combing the hair towards the corner of the eye because now the root is in its natural fall. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my guideline. I'm going to put it in the front of the section. I'm going to come in, and remember, here's my finger angle. You see that horizontal part already put my 45-degree finger angle. See it? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt her head forward because I want you to be able to see the motion. Let me reposition her so I can turn her a little bit. Okay, good. So I'm combing the hair forward. So I'm keeping the root in its natural fall. You can see my guideline is right there. It's popping out. So my finger angle is already there. Now watch, I'm not going to change the angle of my comb. I'm just going to shift now to the cutting position at the top of the ear. So do you see how if I push that hair back, the root is still in its natural fall? So we're literally making a hockey stick. Remember, you should just be watching. You should not be combing. You should not be cutting. You should just be watching, taking notes, or a video at this point. All right, so let's bring your head back up so I can cut this. So I'm going to comb the hair. Remember, my body is now at the corner of the eye. Once I'm here, guess what? The comb comes underneath. My finger angle is 45. Now watch the comb. Angle does not change. I'm coming to the position at the top of the ear, looking for my guideline. You can see it just popped out. There it is. There's my 45-degree finger angle, placing volume at the back, and I cut. I'm going to take my next horizontal parting. Hair comes straight up. We're combing the hair towards the front corner to keep the hair in its natural fall. Now the comb comes underneath. 45-degree finger angles there. Now I shift to the cutting position, looking for my guide. There it is. I cut. I ran out of tension, so I'm just going to release that, bring it back over, repeat the movement again. There's my line, and I cut it. Next horizontal part. You see how the head's getting wider, yes? So see, this is why I'm losing tension and I'm having to split it once I get to the top to cut it. So now I'm going to bring all this hair straight up. So remember, really get that root of the hair smooth. You don't want any buckling. First, comb position to the corner of the eye. Comb comes underneath. Lock in your 45, shift to the cutting position, and you're going to see you get less and less hair each time because the hair is having to travel much further with that diagonal finger angle to get to the length. Take my next horizontal section, and what you're going to see here with this next horizontal section, if you look, this section will never reach the cutting position. So see, we just satisfied her because we didn't cut off the length. So remember, we haven't done anything to her perimeter, so her perimeter may look a little straggly because it was kind of straggly when she came in, yes? Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to comb this hair straight up again. Remember, client keeps their head upright. We're combing to the corner of the eye. to the corner of the eye, coming from underneath, locking that position in. So see, I don't even have to hold on to the comb, and I can come right out to the cutting position. And as you can see, look, I have very little hair and I'm done. So now when I get finished and I combine the front and the back together, we get a consistent line. So if I pick this up and I look, I will literally see a diagonal line with that curve going from short to long all the way to the back. And if I lift it up vertically, I see the curve here. So look, what's beautiful about that? Look, it looks like it's been texturized already, doesn't it? Yeah, and so see, that's why people say, oh, can I point cut it? Well, you could, but why do we point cut? To make it softer, right? Does this need to be made softer? No. So see, there you go. You've just saved time because you've actually created a soft line within the graduation and you don't have to texturize it. And the cool thing is, because of the curve, you can style this hair back or forward. Now, here's what I'm going to caution you on, and I'll just go ahead and say it now. Because we tend to, let me pull her back a little bit so you get a better view. We tend to, and this is our habit, because we want to check ourselves, right? We want to make sure it's right. So we'll wet it down now that we're all done. And then we'll comb it straight down. And as we're combing it straight down, we pick this up and we see like this corner here, right? And so what do we want to do? Cut it off. And then guess what happens? Because the hairline goes up, that's where you end up with that little hole, because that corner, if you comb the hair all the way around, is going to fill in where the hairline goes up. So see, that way, if you look, you continue the line as you go around. So you get that beautiful fill in. So you're not having to pull the hair from behind the ear to fill in the gap. So what I always recommend is just cut your perimeter horizontally, whatever you're gonna do, blow dry it, and then see how it lays before you start again cutting off corners. Cool? So let's review how that happens. We're gonna go into the back. So again, who's my volunteer for my first step going into the back? Who's my volunteer? Who wants to take us into the back? Carol Ann, you want to do it, don't you? I love that. Look at that look on her face. She's like, oh no, you didn't just call me out. I love you, girl. You're going to do fabulous. All right, so just the first step. All you have to do is the first step.
Alrighty.
That
So
looks really good, by the way.
first step is we're gonna take a tiny section as our guide from this back corner.
So that's from the back corner, or is that from the corner of the back of the section that we just cut?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, perfect. Then what do we do with the rest of that hair, except for that little bitty triangle? What do we do with the rest of that hair in the front?
Push it out of our way or clip it out of our way.
Yeah, clip it. Yes, absolutely. Because the more you secure that hair, the easier it's going to be, especially when you're teaching people that haven't done this before. It's going to be easier for them to control it. Yep. So you're just going to take that. That's your guideline. You're going to clip the rest of the hair out of the way. And that is step one. Give it up to Carol Ann. She did great. Steps. See, that wasn't that bad.
No.
All right, perfect. So who wants to take step two? What's step two? So we've got our guideline, that little triangle right in the back of the front quarter panel. And then we've clipped the rest of the hair out of the way. So then what was step two? What was step two? Who wants to volunteer? Ryan, did I see you waving your hand? Ryan, thank you.
You're going to take a horizontal small triangle section from your back quadrant.
Perfect. So that's the next one. So there's our next section, right? Horizontal section. Snaps. Good for you, Ryan. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So now we've taken our horizontal section. What's the next step? This is where it gets really important. Oh, well, it's always important, but these are those few little key steps right in here that would make it. Anybody want to try? All right, so what's the first thing? We want to comb the root into its, everybody mouth it, natural. I even heard somebody saying it who's not muted, which is fine. Natural fall position, yes. So which means our what? Our body needs to be kind of at the corner of the eye, so we're combing that hair into that natural fall. Then once we get the hair laying on top of the head, we put the comb underneath. We see our 45-degree finger angle. We've got our guide, and then we shift the section over to the top of the ear, looking for your guideline, and just continue your guide. So if you remember that diagram, it's almost like you're making a hockey stick with that hair. You're first combing the hair, straight up at the root. That's the stick, the hook part. And then you're bringing it back over to the straight line to cut that graduation. Cool. And remember, as you go down the head, you may have to recomb each one of those horizontal sections, split it in half, because you might start losing tension. So Jody, I noticed your hand up.
I have a question.
Sure.
If they want their bangs shorter and they don't want any length off, as long as that is, how are you going to make that transformation?
Okay, so think about the 6-panel bob for a second. What are panels 7 and 8 in a 6-panel bob? Is that not what we usually refer to as her fringe?
Yes.
Could you not then, after you do this, go back and separate off 7 and 8 and give her a shorter fringe?
Then how would you blend that into the rest of it? Just keep doing that?
Okay, let me ask you a question, Jody. Are your bangs blended into the rest of your hair?
I tried.
Are they blended in? Are they blended
Yes.
into the rest of your hair?
Yeah, but on
Okay.
longer hair, how do you do that?
You don't have to. Why do bangs have to blend? Why do they have to?
They don't. But what if they
No,
do?
because think about this. What if you have a client with one length hair down to her boobs and she wants bangs? She doesn't necessarily want it blended in, but if
Okay.
you want to blend it in, but if you wanted to blend it in, could you not then, after it was dried, just go from her bang area to her length and connect the two together? You don't have
So
to.
it wouldn't be the
You
same
don't
hair.
have to
That's what I'm
necessarily. It
Right.
would be just like you would approach anything else. Okay.
Okay.
And so because a fringe doesn't have to blend. Okay. A lot of times they don't. Even like when you have those longer curtain fringes, because of the length they want down here, you can't blend the two together, or else what's going to happen? Are they going to
Right.
have any hair left on the sides?
Yeah. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
don't let something that's, maybe been a habit of ours that we feel like it has to be blended, because especially when you look at images today, there's a lot of things that aren't blended. And the minute you try to blend it, then it's not going to look like what they're looking for anymore.
Mhm.
All right. So again, think about that, and it's about the guest, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? What the guest is looking for, the outcome that guest is looking for, because she may not want it blended. You may blow it dry and you're like, oh, how are you feeling? I don't ever say, oh, do you want me to blend those two together? I just ask them, hey, how are you feeling right now? Oh, I wish there was more of a little, this seems like a little, and it's like, oh, okay. And then I know to go in and do that, but allow them to kind of guide you and what's going to work best for them. And again, it's all about end result, because this may be to this client, if she's never had graduation before, that could be a bang to her, right? Because she all of a sudden thinks, if you cut any hair up to here, that's a bang, even though we may think a bang's way up here, So it's just about really customizing it to that client. Great question, though, because just think, though, you can keep those independent. Nothing has to blend. It only has to balance, and the client has to like it. Great question. Thank you for that. All right. So, yeah, thank you, Heather. Snaps. Perfect. All right. So we've got that horizontal parting. We comb that root into its natural fall. We bring the comb underneath. We have our 45-degree finger angle, and we shift to the reference point at the top of the ear is where we stand to cut it. So you're going to see a little buckling at that crown area where you're shifting that hair, but that's okay, because that's where that root is staying in its natural fall. All right. So I'm going to send you back off to your break rooms. Remember, first thing, isolate your guideline, make sure the hair's damp, and off you go. Again, we're going to give you 8 minutes, and we're going to bring you back. Remember, accept the breakout as soon as it pops up. Here comes everybody. All right, perfect. Any discoveries, anything anybody want to share? What was their big takeaway from that working in that back quarter panel, connecting the lines of the graduation together? So it was really about those two body positions, right? Making sure that at first we were in our combing position and then we shifted to our cutting position, right? So keeping that root and natural fall and then bringing that into the cutting position. Now, for consistency, all we have to do is recreate something similar on the opposite side, right? So as long as we remember all those key points and where those points of reference were that we're utilizing, we know we're going to be successful in recreating that same silhouette, because remember, the minute we start putting graduation in the hair, it changes the silhouette. So what I want you to do now is just pull up anytime. If you want a video, if you want to take notes, whatever you want to do, I am going to go in and cut the opposite side, the right side. And you're going to see I'm going to cut the right side second, because by me cutting the left side first, it allowed you, the audience, to see what I was doing. You're going to see, because I'm right-handed, when I cut the left side or the right-handed side of the head, I'm going to be blocking your view. So think about that, you know, when you're demoing something, you know, what is going to be the most visual for the people watching you? Where are they going to get the most out of it? So everybody remember, tools down. You're just now going to be in the C portion. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to secure enough of our hair for a guideline, and then I'm going to take all the rest of the hair on the side that we've already cut, which is the left side on my mannequin head. And I'm going to put a sectioning clip from the back. I'm going to take another one from the front just to secure that hair. Right, so now I'm going to release. Okay. This right side, I'm going to go ahead and dampen this down so we have a similar moisture content, because we want to remember to keep that elasticity of the hair the same. So now I've got that. I'm going to go ahead and comb this out. And I'm going to get my first little piece that I'm going to use for my guideline. Now, I could do the exact same thing, but the thing is, now that I have this guideline here, all I have to do is pull this down. And if I look, it goes from short to long, right? And so that's how I want to cut that guideline as well. I just want to cut from short to long. I'm going to turn her just a little bit so I can stand in front of my section. And see, there it is right there, from short to long. So I'm just going to come in and cut that diagonal short to long and see how that matches in. Yep, we're good. So I'm just going to get that out of my way. I don't need it. Body's going to come to the left side because I'm cutting the right. I'm going to take my first diagonal parting. We elevate the hair straight up. It's almost going to feel like you're combing that hair back to keep that hair in its natural fall. Now my comb comes underneath. I've got my guideline. I'm in a position. Now, be careful here. It's going to feel weird for your finger angle to go short to long, more hair in the back. What happens here is people want to reverse it and put shortness towards the back. Remember, we want volume. So see, if I open up my body, if I step back with my right foot, it's going to be easier for me to cut that section of hair. So I'm going to take my next diagonal parting. Combing the hair straight up towards the ceiling, picking up some of my guideline. I've crossed over, and I'm going to come from underneath, 45 degrees, opening up with my right foot, stepping away from my body. There's my diagonal finger angle. So do you see, by me cutting this side, do you see how my body is blocking your view? That's why you wouldn't want to cut this side first. So if you're left-handed, the right side would be the side you would cut first. So now I've crossed over the center line, comb comes underneath, step back with my right foot to open up my body, follow my guideline. This will be my last section, combing it straight up. comb underneath, 45-degree finger angle, open up your body. And that was the last subsection in the front. So now I'm going to comb this down. And the great thing is, because we mirrored everything we did on the other side, you can see we get that same great face frame. All right, next step. Isolate our guideline. So we're going to take that small triangle right in front of the high point of the head on the right side that we just cut. We're now going to take the rest of the hair and secure it with the sectioning clip. So now I've got my guideline. I'm going to bring my body back to the left side of the head. Take my first parting, which again is horizontal. Now remember, we're going to have our body at the corner of the eye for our combing position. We're going to pick up that guideline. We're going to put our comb underneath. We've got our 45, and now we shift to the cutting position. And there's my guide. It just popped out. Next horizontal parting. Elevation vertically at 90. Now bringing the hair to the combing position at the corner of the eye. Comb underneath. Now shift to the cutting position at the top of the ear and look for your guide. And notice each time I step around and look at my section, I want to make sure I'm in control. I'm not just blindly grabbing hair. Because I always say you should comb a lot and cut a little. I know with one of the groups I shared that, you know, people say that not everybody can cut hair. Well, I disagree. Everybody can cut hair. The challenge is a lot of people don't know how to comb it first, right? So if you comb it into the right position, you'll get a great shape. If you don't, well, then you look like the 3-year-old that picked up her safety scissors and cut her own bangs. And then there was my last section, just a few hairs, and now I'm completely finished. So you can see it's a very quick way of incorporating graduation because we're relying on the shape of the head. Now, when you get finished, I want you to see what this is going to look like. Because traditionally, when we cut graduation, we'd pick it up and we'd see what? Like a straight line, or we go just short to long like this. But because remember, we cut a curve with the center part, it's going to be the shortest right down the middle. And then you see it almost makes like a heart shape where it's shorter in the middle and then it curves out on each side. Cool? So now you're just going to go recreate the left side. I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms. Remember, the first thing you want to do is just bring a little piece of your guideline down on each side, isolate that. Then remember all those steps. Cutting position is at the top of the ear. Combing position for the back is the left corner of the eye, right? And then the cutting position is at the top of the ear. All right, so we're going to give you 10 minutes to finish the complete left side. Remember, watch yourself in the screen. Check your elevation. Repeat the verbiage. I'm taking a diagonal section. I'm elevating the hair at 90 degrees and swelling graduation. My finger angle is 45 degrees, placing volume in the back. My finger position is horizontal, right? So start saying those things. It'll help it start ingraining it into you. So here come your breakout room invitations. Make sure that you accept those for me. Perfect. So what we want to do now is you've just experienced swelling, what we call swelling graduation, creating a curved line that increases the volume within the shape. So what we want to do now is really talk about, you know, what are the principles of that? You know, what do you have to do to create this so you all have a good foundation for that? So we're going to go right back into our digital flip charts. And here we go. So swelling graduation, how do we achieve it? What did we do? We elevate above the horizontal 90 was step one. And then the second thing was what? That the hair had to lay or wrap on top of the head. And see, that's what creates that beautiful curve. So think about this. Could you not tell the guest that this graduation truly is customized to their head shape? Because everybody's head shape's different, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, if we do the same graduation on somebody else, will it still create that curved line that increases the volume? Yes. Will the curve be exactly the same? No, because everybody's head shape is slightly different. So it's going to give them a very customized result to that. And I love to share that with them. And remember, the end result here, what they get is a curved line that increases the volume. So it's a curved line that increases the volume. And think about that for a minute. Our finger position was horizontal. Our finger angle was 45. So think about that. Since that was a horizontal finger position, we said earlier that horizontal lines build weight. Yes, absolutely. Think this might be a great way of putting layers in finer hair. Yeah, because it's actually going to look like they have more hair. Whereas if you went in and did it vertically and put layers in their hair, no matter what elevation, would you agree it's going to make it look leaner? It's going to make it look like there's less hair. So think about that, you know, what kind of hair is your guest bringing to the table? What's the density of it? You know, what finger position is going to give them the best results for what they're looking for? So that's swelling graduation. Elevate above the horizontal line of 90, and it must then lay or wrap on top of the head. So until it lays or wraps, it's not swelling graduation. So see the horizontal 90, and then we keep going, Oh, nope, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, now. So see, until all that hair lays on top of the head, that's when we have swelling graduation. Beautiful. Think about it. Doesn't have to be long hair, right? As long as the hair can lay or wrap on top of the head. Doesn't have to be in one specific, or it doesn't have to be all over. Remember, you're the creative artist. Your students are the creative artists. I was talking about earlier that works really, really well in textured hair. And I do a lot of times when I'm working with naturally textured hair where they want more lift, more height up in here, but they don't want to take away the density, that I will literally just do a circular section up in here and just do the swelling graduation in that, and then the length blends into the rest of the length. So she gets this, or he or she, it doesn't matter, gets this lift in here because you have some shorter graduation, but it's still curved. So it looks soft with the texture that they naturally bring to the table. So a way of thinking about it where it doesn't have to be all over, it can be just in a specific area. Let me ask you a question. You notice you've got a beautiful face frame, right? On both sides. Could you not literally just do this around the hairline to get a face frame and then blend it into the length? Sure. And guess what? You're going to get consistent results from right to left because what? Everything was the same. Whereas when we're doing it free-handed, I don't know about you, but when I would do free-handed face framing, I'm right-handed. The right side always looked amazing. The left side was always a little wonky because you can't get your body in the same position. Now, if you're ambidextrous, you could do it. Now, if you have a lefty, I guarantee you their left side on the face framing looks amazing. Their right side's not quite the same because it's hard to get your body in the same position unless you're basically standing in the chair with your client to be able to cut in the same line. So this is a great way of giving a face frame that has a little bit more of a softer effect, and it's very controlled at the same time. So now that we know how to create swelling graduation, let's look at the difference. What happens to how that volume placement happens depending on how we change that in and out movement or that finger angle. Now, here's what's ironic. Remember, we were talking about seeing the finger angle from the top view, because guess what? We're cutting horizontally. So look what view we're looking at to see the finger angle, the top view. So let's start right here, because this is what we just, I'm sorry, let's start down here. This is what we just did. And if you see, the layers were shorter around the front and they got what? Longer towards the back. This, of course, was done on top of a bob. And you can see we get that great face framing right around here too. So here, if we look at this, type into the chat bar, what was our finger angle in that last picture down here on this last one right here? What was that finger angle? How do we describe that? Go ahead and type that into the chat bar for me. Yeah, 45. Oh, you can't see. Can everybody see now? Yes? Okay. 45 degrees, right. 45 degrees, but now where would the volume be placed? Where are we placing the volume? So you're absolutely correct. It's a 45 degrees volume where? Ah, perfect. Thank you for that, Hillary. Volume in the back. Perfect. Now let's look right above it. That's just the opposite, right? So would you agree the finger angle is still 45 degrees? It's still diagonal. Absolutely. So our finger angle is still 45 degrees diagonal. But now where's the volume placement? Ah, it's in the front. Absolutely. So now my volume placement is in the front. So think about that. So are you still getting a few? Because if you see, they started to create the graduation before the length in the front. So you still get some face framing, right? But where's the degree of shortness now? Right here. So think about that. What about for that client that maybe wants more lift, height in the crown, but they have very fine hair that we know if we put a lot of layers around the front, it just kind of goes away. Anybody ever experienced that? Absolutely. So this way, so you're maintaining the density at the front. We're cutting it horizontally, so we're building weight, but we're creating that degree of shortness right here at the crown, so they're getting that little extra lift. So you can see both of them are creating short to long, the volume's just placed differently. Then we could also have what? A traditional 90-degree finger angle. So what would that look like? Well, here's our 90-degree finger angle. How would you describe the volume placement with a 90-degree finger angle? How would you describe a finger angle with a 9, or how would you describe the volume placement? Nice, equal, excellent, excellent. Yes, absolutely. We talk about the volume placement being equal. Now, that doesn't mean the hair is going to be all the same length, because depending on the shape of the head and what you're doing, but we do say that the volume placement is equal. It's equal from top to bottom. And now you can see the difference as well here, right? You can see by changing that finger angle that now look, the line of the graduation mirrors the finger angle. So see, we get more layers from the front and the back, right? Absolutely. Think about this for a second. Keith, I'll use you an example. Keith's guest comes in. He does this on his guest because she said, oh, Keith, I want some layers. I don't want you to cut off my length, and I don't want my hair to look thin on the ends. So this is what Keith does. She leaves, so excited, loves it. Oh my God, I love volume. I get some more height, blah, 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 blah. She comes back in 6 weeks. She says, Keith, you know what? Now that I've gotten used to the layers, I don't want any more layers in the front. Is there any way I could get more layers in the back? Could we do that? Absolutely. And what do? We recreate exactly what we did in the front the first time, yes? But what did she say she wanted? More layers in the back. So less volume in the back, right? So now at the point of reference, at the top of the head, top of the ear, we change our finger angle to a 90 degrees. And now she has the same face framing around the front, but what did she get in the back? More layers. See it? Maybe she came in the next time, she, oh my God, I loved it. I want more layers all over. So maybe we just do this all over. But see, again, you can change the finger angle if you do it at a what? A point of reference so you can create balance and consistency from one side to the other. So just because I start with a diagonal 45 degrees in the back doesn't mean I can't change it, right? Wait a minute. Could I do this finger angle in the front and do this one in the back? Everybody should be nodding yes, because remember, you can do whatever you want. They just have to like it. But now where's the degree of shortness? Now look what would happen here. Let's actually draw this in. So what would happen is we'd start here, yes? But then what would happen? The line would go like this. So you would actually get the degree of shortness right here, and then it would get longer in the front and longer towards the back. That could look pretty cool, right? But the cool thing is, because you're seeing a point of reference, you can be consistent. There's creativity with control. Keith, don't you want to go do it on somebody now? Yeah, or at least get a mannequin head, right? And it's really funny because I actually have a client that I do this to, and she wears a bob, and we actually color the hair from the parietal ridge down 2 levels darker. If she's a redhead, than we do on the top. So you literally see the line of the graduation and the color kind of reinforcing it. It's pretty amazing. She said people stop her all the time. Say, how do they make your hair do that? And she says, I have no idea. He just does it. But it's just being a little creative, keeping yourself from getting bored, keep your guests from getting bored. And that's what it's all about. Everybody take a deep breath in. Exhale out. Okay, let me ask. Let's see, Ryan, I see that you typed in here. Would that be best for a shorter pixie type cut, removing right around the ears, if I'm seeing the visually correct? Yes, it could be. Absolutely. But think about this when you're talking about like if you're talking about a traditional pixie where it's shorter all over, depending on if you wanted it rounded, you may do it diagonally. But think about this. You know how we get some of these modified pixies where maybe it's super short all over, but then they want this longer piece in the front, right? Could I not just isolate like whatever I wanted to be longer, do swelling graduation, but over direct the hair back? And then what would that do? Make the curve come forward, right? So that way you're still getting length, and you're still getting that length towards the front, but it's a softer curve instead of just over directing everything back and getting a lot of weight. So absolutely. But yeah, that 90-degree finger angle, if you're doing more of a traditional pixie, and especially that's more planes of the head, so you're going to get a softer, rounder shape from that. And we'll get into that, but that's not until I think next week, or it could even be the next week after. Good? Does that help? All right, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discoveries, ahas? You're amazing. Anything like that? Oh, okay. Oh, well. Awesome. How many of you have some learns already, some wins? Yeah. So I know we got some wins from the combing and all those things. How many of you realize now how important body position is, especially when you get to that back quarter, those back quadrants, right? Yeah, you've got to have your combing position and your body position, all right? So that's what's going to make you successful there. So we have been here for almost 2.5 hours now. You guys have been working through like champions. We truly, truly appreciate it. We're going to go on our lunch break. Yay! All right, so it is 1:24 or 24 minutes past the hour, depending on what time zone you're in. Still 24 minutes past the hour. So what we'll do is or actually now 25 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you till top of the hour. So you get a few extra minutes, do what you need to do during that time, decompress, have some lunch, whatever you need to do. I'll have some music on. Remember, I'll give you a 5-minute warning, and then you'll hear that espresso song when it's time to come back. And then we're going to get right back into our second cutting exercise for the day. So have you had some wins? What are we doing? We win. Celebrate. All right, everybody, hands to the camera. Remember, on the count of 3, we're going to say swelling. You're going to hit that space bar on 3 and just yell out swelling really, really loud and obnoxious. 1, 2, 3. Swelling. Welcome back. Hopefully everybody feels a little recharged from their lunch break. I know I do. It was nice to have a little respite and also get to see my dogs. So, they're always kind of crazy running around up there. But welcome back. Thank you so much for everything so far. We were going to continue right along. We're going to get right into our next cutting exercise. And for that to happen, Of course, what's the first thing before we do any kind of shape or any kind of activity with cutting is we need to section. So here's what's going to happen. You are going to have 7 minutes to do your vertical breakdown. Remember that from our 6-panel bob? Remember those key points, center front to center nape. Then we find our high point using the comb, just like we did with the 4 quadrants. And then remember either utilizing your hands or your combs to find the corners where those major changes of direction owe those points of reference. And remember, check yourself. Make sure your partings are vertical. Make sure you're at the slope of the head for panels 7 and 8 or that fringe area. All right, so we're just going to stay right here in our main room. You are going to have 7 minutes. Go ahead and put that mannequin right in front of the screen. Make sure you're using that like you would your mirror in the salon. And your time begins now. Remember body position right where you should be standing. Good job wetting those mannequins back down again. Remember body position. You should always be standing right in front of where you're putting those parts in. Keeping the hair in its natural fall. You're going to see how we're going to now utilize these points of reference in the vertical breakdown for our consistency as we're working with one of our additional movements that we'll be adding in to our elevation and our finger angle. Still using those sectioning clips vertically, working with gravity, keeping the hair as smooth as possible. Angela, that's looking great. Nice job. Nice clean parts, Sarah. Nice. Good body position, Nikki. Awesome. Move around that head. Looking good. That looks good, Heather. Nice job. Remember, stand right in front of where you're putting in those sections. It'll keep everything nice and neat and tidy. Looks good, Jody. Nice job. Looking good, everyone. Nice. You're not quite finished. You still have about 2 minutes to go. Sarah, that looks really good. Thanks for the spin. Awesome, Keith. Nice job. Hillary, that looks great. Nice job. Looking good, Miss Samantha. Perfect. About 1 more minute. Finish up that sectioning. Good job. Vanessa, that looks great. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so we're going to go into our next see do. Again, just like before, you're going to see me actually do the activity, the elevation, the finger angle. Notice all those things as I'm working. What I'm going to be doing is asking you to take notes, and then of course I'm going to ask you to teach that back to me before we get into that first cutting exercise for you. So I'm just going to pull my mannequin head around here. I'm going to turn her to a side profile view. Now we are going to start in bevel number 4. Okay, so we're going to be working on the left side of the center back part. I'm just going to take that section down and dampen it down. Now we're going to be using points of reference for over direction. So I'm going to be doing a stationary point of reference of over direction. So the first thing I need is my guide. So I'm going to take hair from the very top of the high point of the head. I'm going to drop that down. And what I want it to do is I want it to hit right about at the occipital bone. So that's probably about 4 to 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to cut that length right a little bit below where I want it. So then I have my guideline. So now I'm going to take my first subsection in this panel. I'm just going to take 2, and I'm just going to take enough hair that I can control in my comb. So I'm just taking enough hair that I control in my comb and my fingers. Now I'm going to put my guideline. My body is going to be locked in at center back. My right foot, my dominant foot is forward. My left foot, my non-dominant foot is back. I'm going to have my fingers pointed up towards the ceiling, and I'm going to comb the hair vertically to the center back. So I'm over directing to the center back. My elevation is diagonal at 45 degrees above horizontal, and my finger angle is 90 degrees vertical. Now I'm just going to take that out of the way, pick up the next piece of my section, and continue on. So if you notice, I'm not ever dropping the guideline. There's my elevation, 45, finger angles 90, and cut. Now I just simply remove the hair and pick up the next subsection underneath. Continuing in that same manner as I move to the nape. So I'm still just taking as much hair as I can control, over directing to the center back. So I'm stationary, I'm going to throw that comb right on the floor. And since we're not the state board, it's sanitized. Elevating 45 degrees diagonal, 90-degree finger angle, over directing to center back. And then the last bit of my hair all the way down to the nape. So we will be cutting into the perimeter. Now I'm going to take my next vertical subsection. I'm going to turn this slightly so you can see this a little bit better. This is going to be the rest of panel number 4. I'm over directing again to the center back. My finger position is vertical. My elevation is 45 degrees above 90, and my finger angle is 90 degrees vertical with even or equal weight or volume distribution. So again, just pull that hair out of the way, pick up the next section. And see, by doing that, you're literally saving yourself time because you're not having to constantly keep picking up your guideline. And it's more consistent. And then we're just going to come through, making sure that we're all the way to the nape. We've got a nice clean line, and we're finished. So now I'm going to comb the hair into the shape. And what I should see is literally a weight line that starts to get a medium amount of volume build up towards the front. Everybody see it? And what's happening is it's literally scooping away the volume underneath. So you can literally see, we're seeing this roundness because that's the shape of the head. And then it scoops out that length, or the volume underneath. So now we're just going to go to the opposite side. Now our body position doesn't change. We stay right in the center back. I'm just going to release the subsection, again, divide it in half for control. Now watch, I'm coming in, see how the comb goes against the head. So that way we're combing to the elevation. There's my guideline, 90-degree finger angle, and I cut the hair. Comb it away, pick up the next piece of the subsection. Now you can see each time I am always using the fine teeth of my comb because I'm really trying to keep the grain of the hair consistent so my graduation is consistent. Pulling that out of the way, picking up the next section. Again, pushing against the scalp, elevating the hair up to the 45 degrees. So if you notice, I'm constantly combing the hair up. So as I'm coming down the section, I'm not combing out and then elevating because then you can see there's a buckling, but I'm literally combing the hair up to the elevation of 45 degrees or diagonal above the horizontal 90. Now the last piece of the nape area, bringing that section in, again, over directing right to the center back. There's my finger angle, and I remove. Take the second subsection, again, all the way to center back. So it's stationary to that point of reference at the center back. Same elevation. Again, knock that hair out of the way. Bring your next subsection up, bringing it right to the center back. Knock that hair out of your way. Keeping the body locked in at center back. There's my 45-degree elevation, my 90-degree finger angle. I see a little piece of hair here that I think I missed, so we're just going to come right back. Yep, there it is. Good. All right, last bit right here at the nape. Elevating that hair up. 90-degree finger angle. Right to the center back and removing that length. Just make sure we've got all those little hairs under there so we don't have any surprises like those right there. Now, let's see the line of the graduation. So just like before, we're going to comb the hair down just like we did with the 6th panel, combing it back into its natural fall. And then what you're going to see is that soft curve line in the graduation, but now instead of increasing the volume, what did it do? It literally removed the volume, right? So we actually now look at the line of the graduation. Does everybody see it? So now it's the curved line, but now it goes in. So now we just created the neck of the t-shirt. We scooped away the volume. Now, this is very much on trend right now, isn't it? Oh, who's ever heard of the jellyfish haircut? Ding, ding, ding. There it is. Hello. You know, and everybody's saying it's something new. No, it's scooping graduation. Hello. Simple, right? But what makes it beautiful is the consistency, how we can see how the weight is starting to move towards the front. And because the weight is falling visually balanced, we know our point of reference maintained that consistency. Cool? Yeah, it's really, really pretty. I love this. I mean, it's just so funny when this came back into trend. I was like, oh my God, it's like a long Florence Henderson, Carol Brady, if you ever watch old Carol Brady Bunch episodes. Her hair was like this, except it was super short version of it, but it was the same silhouette. You know, it had that kind of scooping kind of feeling, that fringy kind of neckline to it. All right, perfect. So now let's see what that looks like in a technical drawing and what it would look like then when you're explaining it to your students as you're going through. So now that's where if you want to take pictures, you probably would want to do that because I'm going to bring up that virtual flip chart one more time. Here we go. Perfect. So here we are in our scooping graduation workshop. So you can see the blue lines are a little bit, represent our elevation, and that elevation is 45 degrees diagonal in scooping graduation. Right? Our over direction. If you can see, we took everything from the points of reference at the back corners and we over directed them to the center back. So our over direction is to the, oops, sorry about that. Need to change that. Go back. Get back. Thank you very much. Our over direction is to the point of reference. Our finger angle was 90 degrees vertical. Our volume placement was what? We said it was even. And our finger position is vertical, which means we're doing scooping graduation, which removes volume, and we're using a vertical cutting line, which reduces weight. So this is the maximum amount of weight reduction you're going to be able to get from an elevation. Now, remember, you're only seeing this weight line because the length of the hair, the graduation doesn't start until the occipital bone. So if this up here was shorter, this weight line would not be as prevalent because it's not going to fall on the round of the head. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start in panel number, panel number 3, 1, 2, 3, right here on the left side. You're going to take that piece of hair right at the high point of the head. You're going to drop it down, cut it just a little bit below the occipital bone. Then when you bring that up, you can use that as your guideline. And our elevation is 45 in scooping. So that means above horizontal 90. Remember, your mannequin should be on this side profile so we can really see and you can see your elevation and your finger angle. Don't trust looking at the head. Look in the screen, your mirror, to make sure that you're consistent with that to get that beautiful silhouette. Once you finish with the left side of the head, you're going to then switch to the right in panel number 4. So that way we can start to see any inconsistencies and modify. I like to say modify or adjust as we go. All right, so I'm going to send you back into your break rooms. You're going to have 10 minutes to do panels number 3 and 4. So the right and the left side right off the center back. Remember, use your screens. Make sure that you're really being consistent so your line of your graduation is much more consistent. Right, we're going to send you into those break rooms. Remember, I'll be coming through and sharing with you and watching as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to holler them out. Your invitation will be coming up, so make sure you accept it. All right, welcome back. Wow. Huge discoveries and learning there. I think everybody had one. So here's what I want to do. And I want to take just a couple of minutes and I want to go through every single person. I want you to tell me and tell the group what your big learning was. What are your habits that maybe you're going to have to be aware of? Because I know there were some things happening that I pointed out, but then, talk about what you discovered along the way as well. So I'm going to go by my screen order. So Elizabeth, you just happen to be up first. So if I get you to unmute and just talk about what was your big takeaway from that activity of the scooping graduation, those two bevels.
It's my initial response to stand like off to the side, and so just remembering to keep moving my body position.
Yeah. So, and that's coming from cutting over the top of your fingers, right? Yeah. So the minute we cut palm to palm, which I really didn't say it because I didn't want you to focus too much on that until I saw what your habits were, then, all of a sudden it's very, very visual. So thank you for that. Snaps for you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. Okay, Zara, you are next.
Mine was the same thing, remembering to not stand behind where I'm like the section I'm cutting in, but to remember to move back to center back and keep my hands correctly at the 45 degrees above.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot to think about, right? And so many times we don't think about all that because when we do it, we're not necessarily thinking all those things. So it's really, really just, and I always tell everybody, slow down to speed up, and that's the thing, because the slower you are with your instruction, the more detailed, the less you have to do later. So Snaps, thank you for that, my dear. I appreciate it. All right. So Hillary, you are next, my dear.
Okay, so my biggest takeaway, I think, was like the amount that I can hold in my fingers. I do get greedy, so sometimes I do take too much in my hand, and knowing that I can take less and it's more controlled that way was definitely something that I took away today.
Good. Excellent. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see who's next. Amanda. Hello.
Hi. I would say taking the really thin vertical sections. I'm not used to having like that little bit of hair and being so precise with the angles.
Now, did you notice when you were precise with those angles and taking those smaller sections, what did you think about your end result?
When I cross-checked, there was like everything was very straight. So
Good, good, perfect. And here's what I want you to remember too. Don't always, thank you for that. I'm going to release you on that pin. And this is for everybody, because I know a lot of us were trained in beauty school, depending on where you went, if you cut it one way, check it the opposite, make sure everything's even. Remember, because we are doing over direction, you are going to get a short to long line. So that's why I was saying with some of you, when you were combing into shape, comb it into shape and step back away from your work. Look at it. If it looks even and balanced, don't check it. Because you have to remember, if her head is slightly different on one side than it is on the other, you're not going to see the same thing, are you? No. So see, but if you look at the head and it's sitting right, isn't that what your guest is truly concerned about? That what it looks like? Because think about it, if we texturize hair, there is nothing even about that hair, is there? Nope. So, that's the thing, even doesn't mean that it's a good haircut. If it lays right, it's a good haircut. So cut it technically, but step back, comb it into shape, see if the silhouette's where you want it, and then walk away. Great job, everyone. All right, Ashley, you're next. Hello, darling.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I would probably say like getting the right elevation, because I automatically wanted to go up all the way and then follow my guide down. But yeah, I guess.
So just being consistent with your elevation from top to bottom,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
because then that's going to give you what that consistent silhouette that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, Samantha.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I found myself doing like more of the horizontal sections to get it out of the way. For this
Which-
cut, so I could
Which
be
is
like
perfect.
really
That's perfect.
clean.
Yeah, because you take a horizontal and push it out of the way. Yep. You're cutting vertically, but you're pushing little horizontal sections out of your way so you can move down. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Nice. Thank you. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see, Dondi, are you there? I don't see you in your screen. Oh, there she is. She was hiding from us.
Hello.
Watching it on a big, there's 3 of us working on mid screen.
Oh, okay.
I found I would have my angle right, but then just remembering to keep my fingers vertical instead of
Yeah, because
hanging my fingers off.
it's uncomfortable keeping it vertical, isn't it? Yeah, we naturally want to go like this to get it longer, but then we'd also take away some of that nice scooping action, right? Yeah, so good. Thank you for that. Perfect. Now, Jennifer.
I think just be mindful of my body position, because where I thought I was in the right place and thought I was standing there, I absolutely wasn't. And once I made the adjustment, it made a world of difference just in like being able to see it in the mirror. So if that's what my students can see better, rather than me blocking my work, or, and then my hand position as well. I've never been a big like palm to palm cutter, but I see the difference. I see the point, like I see how much better it is. So I think just be mindful of, that if I think I'm in my position, just to double check myself.
Yeah, good. And you know what? There are times you'll see when we cut to the planes of the head, the 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches, you will absolutely be cutting over your fingers because you have to, but that palm to palm when we're doing these elevations, yes, it gives you that better viewpoint. And like you said, if you can see yourself better, the students can see you better. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
All right, Sarah. Every time I see that name, I always think, Sarah, Sarah. I'm not a good singer, so don't judge me.
Me neither, but I still love it.
Thanks. All right, so what was your big takeaway?
The big takeaway is remembering that on the right side, the fingers are down, and on the left side, they are up.
Now, good. If I could give you even a little extra bonus on how to remember that, would that be beneficial?
Yes.
Now, for us old people like me, there used to be this thing that we did when we were younger, which would be really stupid nowadays. It's called hitchhiking. And hitchhiking would be you be walking down the road and you would put your thumb out in the direction you are headed. So see, if you're on the left side, my fingers will be pointed up because the thumb will be pointed towards the left, the direction I'm headed. And then when I'm on the right, if my fingers are pointed down, my thumb is pointed in the direction I am headed. So I always say hitchhiking. So that if that helps you, great.
Yes,
not,
thank you very much.
I'm sorry. All right, perfect. Jody. I am so proud of you, number one, because you, like a trooper, you switched that habit and you went for it.
I didn't want to.
For you. Snaps for you.
Palm to palm. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah. So what did you notice though when you did that, when you switched to palm, besides being uncomfortable?
You can see your elevation and your angle better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's about, really being able to see and other people to be able to see. So thank you for that. Thanks, Jody. Nikki. There she is.
Yeah, keeping my fingers at 90 and the amount of hair, because I just wanted to put it all in my hands.
You're just like, I just want to get in there and get it done, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but then
wanna
when
go
you take those
fast.
big sections, you see you get those inconsistencies in the elevation. So
For
yeah,
sure.
I know. So thank you for being
Cool.
honest. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Great job. All right, perfect. Samantha.
Okay, so my biggest takeaway was stepping back with my left foot because I'm right-handed to like create more space for my body. That made it a lot easier to do palm to palm. So yeah, that made a huge difference.
Yeah, so you're still square to the section. You're just staggering your feet. And I love how you said that. It gives you more room because if you're standing square to the head, you can't get in there. You know, that's where you want to switch over. So good for you for that discovery. Great job. Angela.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, I discovered that I kept wanting to cut over my knuckles. I discovered that my positioning wasn't correct. Yes, so versus being behind, I was on the side and things.
So did you notice when, yes, I know it felt uncomfortable, but you notice when you put your body in the right position, everything else was a little bit easier to see and to do.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Nice. You're welcome. You are welcome, Vanessa.
Hello.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I noticed was that when I was trying to cut palm to palm, I was having a hard time getting my elbows where they needed to be in order to do that. So, really just kicking that one leg back out and then really bringing this shoulder over so that way my hands were actually palm to palm. So, learning what the correct body position is and then adjusting it so you can physically do it.
Yay. That's it. Once your body's in the right position, it's not hard anymore because you've allowed you have the space that you need. So thank you for that. Nice. Nice. Love that. All right, Kelsey.
Yeah, me holding palm to palm obviously was hard for me. That's not easy. And then taking a lot of hair, the small sections just aren't my forte. So
Until today.
yeah, until today.
Okay, good. Now, good, because you're going to have a few more sections that you get to practice on. So nice. Thank you so much for that. And, and that's what it's about, everybody. It's knowing what your own habits are and what you need to work on to make yourself better tomorrow than you were today. It's not about being perfect because we are not perfect. I am not perfect. I don't know if anybody noticed, I cut myself. So, but I just kept on going. But, it's just, yeah, you got yourself too. So, yeah, because I try to cut past that second knuckle and you see self-preservation. That's why we shouldn't do it. But, it's about just being better, and trying to constantly challenge yourself, and not becoming comfortable with that. So, all right, Miss Heather.
Hello.
Hello.
So I was trained palm to palm, so palm to palm was natural, but not in this way. I wanted to go over my knuckles.
Ah, okay.
Again, it was uncomfortable, but I had to learn how to stand. I also realization of I need to get out of my own way.
What do you mean when you say that?
Bad habits, or well, this is how I would do it and not the way you're teaching me to do it. Get out of my own way, then I'm learning how to teach this, not to go home and do a haircut.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to fall over and die right now, except somebody'd have to pick me up and nobody's here. But no, it's true. That right there is what makes Starbucks and McDonald's successful. It's not doing it the way you would do it. It's doing it the way that you're being taught to do it. So you have that consistency. And that's what it's like I said, whether you like it or not, if you go to McDonald's in Portland and you go Maine and Portland, Oregon, the fries taste the same. And I've even been to Europe and had kids with me and they want to go to McDonald's, and guess what? They taste the same in Europe. Even the ketchup tastes the same because they have the same manufacturers. So it's that consistency kind of thing, you know. Imagine Starbucks if you went in and ordered your caramel macchiato and your barista went rogue and he likes a little bit more of something than you do, and then it doesn't taste like what you're expecting. So good for that. Thank you, Heather. Awesome. All right, Keith, you're up. How are you, sir? There you go.
You good?
Yeah.
Check 1, 2. Okay, so for me, it's just with teaching everything. So from combing, section sizes, using the mirror to check their body position, palm to palm, clean sectioning, just all of that is when for teaching it, it's going to help with that real consistent result. So
yeah, and I love
that's
that
what
you
I got.
pointed out all those little things, because think about it. If you talk about all those little things, and this is for everybody that you just mentioned, it fills up the time, right? Focus on your body position, look in your mirror. So you don't have to come up with stuff to say because you're reinforcing all those things that you know are going to make them successful. Thank you for that, Keith. That was awesome. Appreciate it. Carol Ann. And see, I hate to say it, but I'm sure you've heard this before. Every time I see your name, I go, "Come to the light, Carol Ann, come to the light," from the movie. I think it was Poltergeist or whatever. But
I
anyway.
have heard that a lot. Yes.
Look what happened.
All right. So what was your big takeaway, my dear?
All right, so my big one.
Hold on just a second. Let's see who's. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, now go. That should be better.
My big one was making sure I'm standing in front of my section, because like other people said, I'm a big stand off to the side and cut type of person, especially over my hand. But just remembering to stand where I need to stand and making sure my finger position is right. And I did want to put a slight angle on that instead of keeping it at 90. So catching myself do that was a big one too.
Yeah. And great. And like you said, using your mirror, the minute you look in the mirror, you'll see it and go, oops, and correct it before you do it, and then go back and have to figure out what happened. So awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. Winding down, Mr. Ryan. What's going on?
My Zoom was not working. But mine would have to be body position, because I'm so used to standing off to the side and just being like that instead of, coming everything at me.
Yeah. And what's really funny is if you watch people like that do stage work, and especially people that are aware of like their body position, when you watch them, it's almost like they become part of what they're doing. So, when they're cutting vertically, their body's a little bit more vertical, and those kind of things. So yeah, huge body position. Thank you for that. Awesome. All right, Amanda.
Wait, I already went.
Oh, you already went? Somehow you moved down to the bottom of my screen. I thought you did. Hold on. Okay, bye. I'm taking you away. Who hasn't gone? Anybody? Did I get everybody? I got everybody? Perfect. Awesome. All right. So now let's take all of those things that we just discovered about ourselves and our own habits, and like we said, getting out of our own way. And we're going to go into Bevel's panels number 2 and 5. So we're going to go behind the ears. Now, when we do this, I'm going to pull this up real quickly just to show you. So let's go back here. All right, now we are going to be over directing the hair again to a stationary point of reference. Where did it go? Here we are. All right, so as we're coming in, so now we're going to go, and everything in panel number 2 will be over directed to the corner back. Okay, and everything in panel number 5 will be over directed to the corner back on the other side. So now think about this. We already know what our elevation is, right? Type into the chat bar, what's our elevation? Of course, we know it's in scooping graduation, but go ahead and type into the chat bar, what is that number? Or if you don't want to use a number, you don't have to use a number as well. Yep, it's 45 degrees. Perfect. We could also say it's what? Diagonal. If you don't like numbers, you don't have to use them. So what I'm going to do is this has gotten dry at this point, so I'm going to dampen this back down. And go ahead and dampen down panel number 2 while I'm at it. Now, what I want to make sure is I have enough hair for my guideline, but I want to keep it where I can also keep my work kind of clean. So I'm just going to move this over to the side, and I'm just going to put a clip in it so I can see it. So now my body position will be locked in at the left corner back, because now everything from the top of the ear will be over directed to the left corner back. So my elevation, like you said, was 45 in scooping. What was my finger angle? Type in what my finger angle is. I know it was vertical, but what was it? Okay, Donnie says 90 degrees. Perfect. So I'm going to comb this hair up, comb this hair up, comb this hair. Oh, get rid of that. I'm being greedy. See, I'm being greedy. I'm going to comb this hair up. I'm going to look for my guide. And look, there's my guide. And when I follow my guide, oh my God, why aren't my fingers 90 degrees? Wasn't my guideline before 90 degrees? Nod your head if it's supposed to be 90 degrees, right? Why is it not 90 degrees? Why is it now diagonal? Who knows? If you want to say it, just unmute yourself and say it. So see, I was at 90, but then all of a
Because
sudden,
we over-directed.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
It's because we over-directed the hair.
Yes, it's because we over-directed the hair and because of the elevation. Because think about it, this hair at the nape, would you agree it's having to travel a lot further than the hair at the top? Yes, so this hair gets longer faster. So now instead of being a 90, my finger angle has shifted and it's now slightly diagonal. Repeat after me. Don't be Brian. For years, I did not trust the guideline, and I'd go back and put another 90-degree finger angle. And then guess what? There was always a hole. Don't be Brian. Trust the guideline. Okay. I know. I love Hillary. She's laughing. It's like that character on social media. Don't be Bob, right? You know, don't be Brian. Don't be me, because I screwed that up for years. I was like, why isn't it 90? Why isn't it 90? It's supposed to be 90. All right. So now we know it's not going to be 90. We know it's going to be slightly diagonal. We're going to trust the guide. There's our new guideline, and we're going to cut it. And then we take that horizontal section, get it out of the way, pick up the next part of the section. Trust the guide, trust the guide. There it is. Over directing to the back corner, get rid of the hair. Next section. Elevate 45 degrees in scooping. The elevation won't change, but the finger angle did. But now it's consistent all the way down. So you can see now we're actually going to be having more length at the bottom, because now the hair is having to travel further, and it's making us shift our finger angle because of the head shape and the distance it had to travel. So now I continue. Body stays in the same position. I'm going to turn her head just a little bit so you can see. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of the section, bringing it all to the corner back. Again, not being greedy. Controlling the hair, looking for the guide. So notice how when I comb the hair forward, I can literally see my guideline, and then I can get rid of it. Next section. Next section. Trusting that guide. Again, see how it's become slightly diagonal. So now that's finished out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comb this down. And look, you can see how the line continues to drop. But see, it shifts a little bit. It doesn't do a straight line. It comes back up a little bit because we're changing that point of over direction. And look, we're getting more length down here because that hair had to travel further. Now we're going to repeat on the opposite side. So now my body goes to the back right corner. I'm going to release panel number 5. Add a little bit of hydration here to the hair. And we're just going to repeat. So now if you notice now here, my fingers will be pointed down, thumb pointed towards the front. I'm hitchhiking. There's my first bit of the section. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little cheat. I'm going to take a clip and place it diagonally across from my point of reference. So now guess what? Now I know exactly where to hit. Pick up a little piece of my previous section as a guideline. There's my back corner. There's my guide. We can see it. Now, I'm going to come in. I'm going to actually switch my hands just because the angle on this side with me being right-handed, it's very hard for me to keep my hand at that angle, but I'm going to make sure that I'm combing the hair up to 45 degrees. I can see my guideline, and I'm at that slight diagonal. Bringing everything to the corner back. There's my guide. Get rid of some of that hair that we don't need. So notice I'm still combing the hair from the front of the section. We're always combing the hair in the direction we're trying to over direct it. If I comb from the back of the section, you see I'm literally taking the over direction away. So I want to make sure that I continue that point of reference. And utilizing that clip as my little cheat so I can continue with that consistency of that line of the over direction. And there's the last little bit of my section. Beautiful. Now we're going to finish this section out. So I'm in the rest of panel number 2. Again, I'm going to still cut palm to palm, but as you can see, I'm just going to open my body up. Again, stepping back a little bit more so it's a little bit easier for me to get in. Remember, in the immortal words, get out of our own way. Don't let our habits and our usual body positions dictate. And you're going to run out of hair here sooner because remember, that hairline does go up. So when you comb this down and you see this hair right behind the ear get a little shorter, don't freak out. It should do that because the hairline goes up. Remember, we're not really worried about the perimeter right now. We're really creating that beautiful line that curves in the graduation and removes the volume. So then you see once we get done, we've got our nice little jellyfish action going on and the client is super happy because she's on trend. Cool? Cool. All right, we're going to break you into your breakout rooms. Remember, body position. You're going to lock it in at the back corner on each side. Remember all those things about small sections, palm to palm. You're going to have about 10 minutes to do this as well. Remember, accept that invitation to your breakout room. It should be popping up right now. All right, welcome back, everyone. Awesome. What amazing progress that I saw in the breakout rooms from the last time. So definitely taking what you've learned in your previous sections and applying those. And that's amazing. We truly, truly thank you for that. So as you can see, we've already got that great scooping kind of silhouette, that jellyfish kind of look. And again, it got a little bit shorter behind the ear because what happens with the hairline, it goes up. So that's going to continue. And then since it gets longer in the front, that's going to happen as well. So what's going to happen is we're going to now change our point of over direction. So if you think about it, the last sections, our points of over direction were the back corners, right? So now everything from the front corners will come to the top of the ear, and everything from the center front will come to the front corners. So even if you haven't finished, go ahead and put a pause on for just a second. We'll give you that opportunity to finish up when we go through these last kind of panels of hair. Now, remember when we talked about earlier about sectioning with the bob, we talked about, that taking bigger sections gives you more texture. taking smaller sections gives you that more refinement of a line. So what we're going to do is we're going to move in. If you've noticed, I moved to the front view because what I want to do is work on the sides now, and I want you to be able to see that elevation of that finger angle. So again, I'm just going to have a small section of my guideline right behind the ear. I'm going to take the rest of this hair and just clip it out of the way so it makes it very easy for me. Again, just because this elevation is getting a little higher, I'm going to lower this down, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So now I'm going to start. I'm going to elevate the hair. Now, do you think because the finger angle shifted in the first section that it's probably going to shift again in this one? Yeah, it is. So it's going to even be more diagonal getting towards horizontal. So look at this. So I'll pick up my first section. I'm going to look at that section and look, there is my finger angle. Look how much more, it's almost getting close to horizontal now, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, now that vertical finger angle that started in the back has become almost horizontal as we move into the front. So then I'm just going to take my next section, 45-degree elevation, following that same finger angle, which is becoming even more diagonal. And then the very last piece of that subsection. Moving into the front, remember it's coming all the way to the top of the ear. Now you're going to have some shorter pieces in here, of course, because of what? Because of that previous shape that we had put into it. So now we're going to start looking for our guide. There it is. Get rid of the hair that we can't control. All the way to the top of the ear. And the last part of that section, again, combing everything back. So we're always combing on the front of the section to make sure all of the hair is over directed back to the point of reference at the top of the ear. There's that last little bit. So what I want you to see is, I'll go ahead and do this real quick. So see, because the hairline comes up, you literally see the perimeter follow the hairline. This is not a mistake. It's because the perimeter follows the hairline, and we didn't allow for that. We weren't trying to not cut into the perimeter. So just know that that should be that way. It's not going to be a straight line all the way across. So now we're going to switch right over to the other side. We're just going to turn her again, face forward. This is going to be your best view. There's my new finger angle. Get the section out of the way. There it is. Now I'm just going to next vertical section. So I'm really almost getting about almost 3 subsections, because of course the last one is just that very front of the section, because it doesn't, because of the hairline, go all the way through. There's my guide. So notice how my left elbow is really tucked tight underneath my body. That keeps my body open where I can get into the cutting position. And so there's those first, or those last little pieces. And then we're going to go right into the last little bit, which is just on the very top of the section because of the hairline. So now you can see we've got that consistency and that balance as we're coming through. And I'm not going to sit here and start doing this because guess what? That teaches my clients to do that. So what I'm going to do is just look in the mirror. It looks balanced. It's good for me. Now we're going to go ahead and finish out our last sections. So now this is our last point of reference at the front corner. So now smaller section here, you're going to have very little hair because of the amount of hair that was already cut. So I'm just going to pick up a tiny piece of my guideline, over direct that hair, look for that guideline. If we even have any hair to cut, we're going to have to see. Yep, there's a tiny, tiny bit. Look at my finger angle now. Now it is almost horizontal. So see, it's leaving a lot of that length or volume at the bottom now, but it's taking it away from the top. So see, again, it keeps getting longer, but you can see, look at the difference in the density from here to here, because see, this one has been scooped away. So now we'll come right back to the other side. Body position is at that front corner. I'm going to take just enough that I can actually see my guideline because there's not a lot of hair to cut right here. There it is. Last little bit right here on the center. Bringing it to the front corner. So again, this is a stationary guideline to the points of reference, because everything within that one panel comes to one point of reference. So hence we say it is stationary to the points of reference. Now there's something else I want you to notice about the silhouette. Do you notice here you see some roundness from the head shape, but it's not as dramatic as this, right? Why is that? Type into the chat bar. Why is it rounder on the back than it is on the sides? Why is it rounder in the back than it is on the sides? Yep, you got it. Head shape. The head's rounder in the back. So you're automatically going to see more of a rounder shape in the back than you do on the sides because the head is not adding to your end result. All right. So now let's go back one time real quick. The only thing that's going to change here is you're going to adjust your finger angle depending on what the hair tells you, the guideline tells you. And then the other thing is that's going to change is what? Our points of reference, right? Yeah, our points of reference are going to change within that. So if we look back, perfect. So now our next point of reference is going to be at the top of the ear, and then the next point of reference is going to be at the front corners. So that way, that's where each point of over direction comes. So everything here comes back, and everything here from the center comes back to this point of reference at the front corner. So those are our next 2 points of over direction. So again, they stationary to the points of reference. All right. So we're going to send you back into your break rooms. We're going to give you 10 minutes, and that's plenty of time because you're going to have the front is like a couple of sections, literally. If you have to catch up on the back, that's fine. Do not hurry. It's not about getting finished. It's about being good at what you do. So if you want to focus on one side and do that very well, totally okay. You can always do the rest of it later. All right. So we're going to stop sharing this. We're going to set up those break rooms and accept that invitation. And off you go. All right. Welcome back, everyone. So great activity. Again, we've now created 3 of the lines that we originally created in that connect the dot drawings. We've connected the points and created that curved line that goes out, swelling graduation. the curved line that goes in that removes volume, which is scooping graduation. And then we also created that nice, strong, straight perimeter as we went through our 6-panel bob. So what we want to do now is we just experienced scooping graduation, but what we want to do is talk about, the technical aspects of it, or, what do we have to do to create it? Just like we talked about when we were doing swelling graduations, what things do we have to do to get that end result? So let's look at that right now. So scooping graduation. So when we think about scooping graduation, what we want to think about is the amount of elevation that we're using. And if you think about it, just like we were talking about with swelling graduation, when we're talking about scooping graduation, what I want you to think about is that we're always going to be elevating the hair above the horizontal line of 90. So above the horizontal 90 degrees. And remember, this happens anywhere on the head. Ooh, I can't spell head. So if you look, and we look at these drawings right here of these elevations, I want you to look at the hair when we look at the length here, at the top and the bottom, as compared to the length that we see in the middle. Where is the hair shorter? Where is the hair the shortest within this section? Or even if we look over on this other side, again, if we look at the length at the top and the bottom, and then we look in the middle, where is the hair the shortest?
Middle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in the middle. So see, that's where we get that weight on the top, and it creates that little bit of a weight line, but then it scoops out the length below. So if we look at this next diagram and we actually look at this, look how this is going to fall. The hair on the top is going to have some length. It's going to get a little bit shorter, shortest. Now it starts getting longer. And then when we get finished, look what we've literally created. We've created that scooping kind of motion, which is pretty much what we just got from what we did, right? Yeah, absolutely. So if we think about it, that look at the head shape for a second. So if this is my head shape, and then this is the line that I created, could we say that scooping graduation literally reverses the head form? Yeah, so if the head's really round, you're going to get this really round scooping. If the head's flat, like we saw on the side, it takes out volume, but you don't really see as much of the scoop, right? Because the roundness of the head isn't helping. So it reverses the head shape. So think about it. Swelling graduation did what? It expanded the head shape. This literally is the opposite, and it reverses the head shape. What we also want to think about is consistency. And when we talk about consistency, remember consistency in your elevation creates consistency in the end result, which of course is what? Graduation. So consistency in my elevation is going to give me consistency in the end results I get. Also, I know that anytime I want to use or achieve the result of scooping graduation, I've got to elevate it above the horizontal line of 90. And as a result, it's going to remove the volume and it's going to reverse the shape of that head. So the more round the head is, the more scooping that curve's going to be. It's going to take out more volume. So if you were working somebody that had a very flat head in the back, yes, it's going to remove volume, but you're not going to necessarily see as much of the scoop because the head's flat. And think about this, we talked about just a second ago, clipper over comb. You'll get a hard line if you're at 90 or below. But the minute you go above 90, because you remove volume, it gets softer. You don't see the line anymore. You don't see the scoop because the hair's so short. So you're never going to see the scoop unless the hair is long enough from the section from top to bottom to complete the line. But if the hair is only 1/4 of an inch long, you're never going to see the scoop because it's the head play is not coming into it. So that was scooping graduation. Now, if you think about it, within that scooping graduation, we also added in some over direction, didn't we? Yeah. And we had talked about our first time, which was over direction to a stationary 1 point of over direction, right? That gave us the maximum amount. We couldn't get any more. Now we're going to soften it up a little bit. So we don't necessarily want all that length and weight towards the front, but we want it a little less. So now we're going to use our points of reference. And you can see this is pretty much what we just did. So you can see we still create that asymmetry of the triangle, but look at the difference. Remember in the first one, how did that triangle look? It came way up here and came way down here really, really quick, didn't it? But look at the difference now. So see, it's much softer in the end result because we're placing less length and weight in the opposite direction. So here, this is stationary to the points of reference. And if you notice, see, look, everything within that panel came to that 1 point of reference. Everything came to 1 point of reference. And again, remember, this is going to give us a medium amount of weight and length in the opposite direction. I love it. Jody's taking her photos. Always good. So this is our second form of over direction. And you'll see when we come back together the next time, when we get into our last S of the graduations, straight graduation, of course, as you already know, you'll see how we incorporate that last type of over direction as well. So, and that's when we'll talk about that. So far we have stationary to 1 point of over direction, gives us maximum. And then we have stationary to the points of reference, which gives us a medium amount. One last thing to finish out our day. We need to look at what happens when we start changing where did it go? There we are. When we start changing the finger angles. So we're going to do this just like we did with the swelling graduation. So let's go in here. Let's change this. All right, so we're going to start right here on the very first one. So this very first one, my finger angle was 45 degrees and my volume placement was, or excuse me, yeah, it's not 45 degrees. It's totally not, it's 90 degrees vertical. Where was the volume? When we said it's vertical, we said it was even, right? It was evenly placed within the shape. Now let's go down here to the very bottom one for just a second. We're going to skip over that middle one, scoop over that middle one. So let's look here. Our elevation is still 45 degrees in scooping, but now look, this was much more like our finger angle after it shifted from the over direction, right? So now we're talking about a finger angle here that is 45 degrees. Let's change this. Diagonal. But what? My volume is now on the bottom. Now we're going to go up here. We're going to look at this one right here. My elevation is still 45 in scooping graduation, yes? In the chat bar, type in, what's the finger angle? What's the finger angle of this right here? Type that into the chat bar. What is that finger angle? How would you describe that? Okay, 45. Now, is it a 45 or is it just diagonal? Because think about it. Here's 90. Here's 90. 45 would what? Have to be right here in the middle, right? So is it 45 or is it just diagonal? I see somebody put just, Dondi just put in slight angle. Yes. But can we just say it's a diagonal? Okay. We know it's not 45, but we know it's not 90 either, right? So it's just somewhere in between. I've actually been to classes where they say, oh, my finger angle is 33 degrees. I'm like, how do you know that? I mean, I know what 90 is, and I know 45 is kind of somewhere in the middle, but everything else is just creative. But here's reality. Or let me ask you this. Can you have scooping graduation at a 45-degree elevation and a 45-degree diagonal finger angle volume on the top? Yes or no? Can you have a 45-degree elevation in scooping and a diagonal finger angle volume at the top? Can you do that as a designer? I want to see who's going to be like me. Hillary, you're going to be like me. Hillary said yes. Okay. And I love that because, and see, it was funny because I was taught by Sam and Chris, right? So they said, why do you say yes? And I said, because you told me I could do anything I wanted as long as I liked the end result. And they said, great, come on up and show us. And I'm like, so I go walking up there and I get up to my mannequin head. Let me get a comb here and get my mannequin head because this is really funny because I'm so proud of myself. I think I know what I'm talking about, right? So I get there and I elevate the hair to 45 degrees and they say, okay, now do a 45-degree finger angle volume on the top. Watch what happens. What happened the minute I got to a 45 degrees volume on the top? Watch again. There's my 45-degree elevation. Watch the elevation when I switch the finger angle. What happened? Is the hair at the bottom now consistently at the same elevation as the hair at the top of the section? No, because what happened the minute I went to my finger angle and I went to a true diagonal, do you see how it pushed the hair at the bottom up? But now watch, I can get a diagonal volume on the top. I just can't go at a 45 because it changes the elevation underneath. Hence why that drawing just shows it's diagonal, okay? Volume at the top, it's just not 45 degrees. So our finger angle here is diagonal, but the volume is on the top. Which brings us to a great little thing. And what I'm going to do is we're going to stop sharing this for just a second. All right. So now I want everybody to listen to this and listen to this for what it is. And it's just something to think about. All 45-degree lines are diagonal. All diagonal lines are not 45 degrees. Who's heard that before? Now, does it make sense? Because I can have a diagonal 45, or I can just have a diagonal that's closer to vertical. I could have a diagonal that's closer to horizontal, okay? So it's not right or wrong, but keep it simple. You know, don't try to give these numbers that we can't really replicate. So it's just simply, it's either vertical 90, horizontal 90, diagonal 45, or it's just diagonal. Keeping it simple, right? Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Now, who remembers how we ended out our last session? Who remembers what those 3 questions were? Anybody? Anybody what those 3 statements were? Hillary's going, oh, man. Oh, man. They all started off with I. So go ahead. Well, I'll give you an opportunity to write them down again. I discovered. I now understand. And the last one is, I was surprised. So those 3 statements. I discovered, I now understand, and I was surprised. Perfect. So I'm going to set a timer for about 3 minutes, give you an opportunity to answer one or all of those, whatever you'd like to do. And then I would love for you to share some of those takeaways with the rest of your team to help inspire their learning as well. So again, we'll take about 3 minutes and off you go. All right, about 30 more seconds, wind up those final thoughts. right, and press pause. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anybody want to share? Give me either a hand raise on the excuse me, reactions, or you can just wave at the screen because I can see all of you all. I know somebody wants to speak. Angela, thank you. I'll put you up here, my dear.
I
There we
discovered
go.
with this last haircut, I got lost towards the end.
Okay.
So just that different finger angle, it threw me off. So that's just something I have to practice a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because we get set because we start with that one finger angle and we think it's supposed to be consistent, right? But sometimes what we're doing with the hair tends us to tell us we need to do something else. So yeah. So you're just trying to be like me, you know, and be a control freak. So we just got to sometimes trust the process, right? No, none of us are control freaks that are educators. No, 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 not us. Thank you so much. Snaps for you, dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Miss Sarah, I see you waving. Come on in. I can't hear you.
We were just
This is really
saying
cool
that-
because I can see you in the screen back here too, which is really cool. It's like infinity. It's like you keep going on and on and on.
What we discovered was that if I'm just now getting this after 5 years of doing this, I'm thinking that we need to seriously simplify for our students.
Now, let me ask you a question. Would you probably be in agreement that sometimes our own experience kind of keeps us from wanting to totally, take it in? Yeah, because it's totally different than how it's like if we went to a country that drives on the wrong side of the road. Can you imagine how long it would take you to get used to that, even though you're used to driving, right? But then all of a sudden you have to constantly keep thinking, wait, I got to stay on the left side of the road, not the right. I got to stay on the left side of the road. So again, we're just asking you to go about it a different way and then thinking about it. So like you said, the more we can simplify it and keep it in those principle-based terms, the more they're going to get quicker, right? Awesome. Thank you for that. Snaps for you and your team, Sarah, because I know you all kind of chitty-chatty together, so we appreciate that. All right, anybody else? I'm looking. Oh, wait, Heather. I see Heather over there. She's waving away. Hold on. All right. Hello.
Hello. So being on the floor a lot and never have taught haircutting yet or seen it haircut, I never understood or knew what swooping and swelling was when the students told me. So now I understand. My discovery is that I've discovered swooping and scooping, and my understanding is that I understand scooping and swelling now.
Yeah, and so now, would you agree now you're going to be much more effective in help guiding them and questioning them since you understand the language they speak now?
Yes.
Yeah, and see, this is what I always say because people say, oh, but I don't teach haircutting. It doesn't matter whether you teach it. The
We need
people
to
that
have
are
all the
teaching
same
it,
terminology.
exactly, because the people that are teaching it, they're expecting you to keep going with that same terminology and reinforcing it as they move on to the floor. So snaps to you. Yay. Self-discovery is the best. We love it. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? This is awesome. I love it. All right. So I don't see any more burning desires. So guess what? We are right on time. My clock just said 0. Our time's up. So I want to thank all of you once again for not what you do every single day, but or not just for being here today, I should say, but for what you do every single day to help inspire these people to be a better version of themselves tomorrow than they were today. So just remember that. And remember, nothing is impossible because the word itself says, I'm possible. Hopefully you've had some wins this week. I know you have. So let's celebrate those wins. Let's do a hands in the middle or hands in the camera. Hello. All right, so on the count of 3, it's T-Spa. Hit that space bar, make it loud and proud. We'll see you next week, same time. Remember to do your homework. 1, 2, 3. T-Spa! Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing week.